Cleveland, Conwell, Griffin,
Here.
Hairston, Johnson,
Here.
Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey,
Present.
McCormick,
Present.
Mooney,
Here.
Valencic, Santana, Slythe,
Present.
Zone.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. This committee of the whole is being held during the COVID-19 emergency declaration in accordance with Ohio's open meetings laws, as amended by Sub-House Bill 197. This meeting is being held using the Zoom platform and is being live streamed on YouTube and Cleveland's Channel 20. It can also be seen on Cleveland City Council website and from Council's Facebook page. In accordance with Ohio Open Meetings Regulations as amended by Sub-House Bill 197, notice that this committee was publicly posted. All members have received copies of legislation via email, and it is affirmatively, short of any objection, everybody is by their presence acknowledging receipt of that, and you must be present to cast a vote. Your vote will not be counted if your face was not on the screen. Generally speaking, we begin the council meetings, which will follow this, with a moment of silence. I would like to begin this meeting with a moment of silence. We lost 2 officers since we last met. One was a very tragic circumstances that we know about with the undercover, but I also don't want to lose sight of the fact that there's a second officer who took his life, and that's, you know, that there's a family, there's a lot of people suffering. So I don't want to lose sight of that as well. So if we could just begin with a moment of silence, then we'll get into the agenda. Okay, thank you very much. As we normally, the order of this for those that are planning, we will go lightest to heaviest based on how things were distributed to you. The only request we had was Director Maness asked that community development go first because for reasons that she gave me some good reason. I forget what it is, but there was no reason to object. So I'm going to begin with ordinance number 722, 2020. Council members Griffin, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance to amend section 4 of ordinance number 597, 2020, passed August 12, 2020, relating to a contract with CHN Housing Capital to provide grants and loans to property owners to make their residences lead safe. Is Director Maness with us?
No, Council President. This is McKeel Wacker, Assistant Director.
Right, Assistant Director, on 72220.
Yes, thank you, Council. This is really a technical change at the request of actually the Finance Department. We are looking to swap out general funds for a different pot of money that there was some concern about the legality around using general funds for these type of uses. And we found a different fund that we can apply toward this program. All the other aspects of the legislation remain the same. So this is just a technical request.
Okay. And what is the fund that it will, from general fund to what? Like what is the new pool of funds, Assistant Director?
Tom Sled, our budget analyst, can probably speak directly to that.
I really do not have that information in front of me, McKeel.
Okay, I'll speak to it. We swapped out general funds for, I think, some sort of program income.
Okay.
But I think we can give you the specifics fairly
Okay,
shortly.
I've got the fund number in the legislation, paying it out of 11 SF006, but I don't necessarily know offhand what all the fund numbers are. So if you could just confirm that before the council meeting this evening, or this morning, I would appreciate it. I want to hear from Councilman Brancatelli. This normally would have been routed to Development Planning Sustainability. Councilman?
Yeah, we've reviewed a lot of this legislation previously and how this is going to be performed. Had a pretty robust presentation with Councilman Griffin as chair of Health Committee. Fully support this legislation.
Great, thank you. And Councilman Blaine Griffin, you are also a sponsor of ordinance number 72220. Are you supportive?
Fully support this legislation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Questions, comments on ordinance number 72220? Hearing on ordinance number 72220 will be considered by the full council later this morning. So that is the only community development piece, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to go back up to finance. And it is ordinance number 69320 by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance to enter into an agreement with the Cleveland Foundation to establish, manage, and implement the Greater Cleveland COVID-19 Rapid Response Fund program by providing grants to local nonprofits to assist them with COVID-19 related issues. Who is with us to speak on ordinance number 69320?
I'm here. This is Dale Anglin with the Cleveland Foundation.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Great. So tell us what you know about ordinance number 69320.
So as you know, the Cleveland Foundation, working with a number of other funding partners, including the county and the state, formed the COVID-19 Rapid Response Fund in March. We've raised almost $8.9 million and awarded most of that money already out to the community. In fact, we're about ready to start a phase 2. The city, we thankfully agreed to also support the COVID fund at $100,000. The county also gave $100,000. And so this is basically processing those funds to that phase 1 of the COVID fund. And I can answer, there's lots of information about the COVID fund. I can answer whatever questions you want.
So is there, is the ordinance seeking authority to make this contribution or to spend the money or to formally enter the agreement? I don't know, Frank, do you know the answer to that? Frank Badalamenti, do you know?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Andre Reynolds has been our contact in the finance office. It is, I believe, to formally enter into an agreement to award the dollars to the Cleveland Foundation.
Okay. Okay. What I'm going to do is I just need to clarify that. I need somebody to speak to that. Ms. Anglin, would you mind waiting just a minute if we
Sure.
if we push this? Okay, I just got to
No
get
problem.
till somebody joins us with this one because
Thank you.
okay, thanks. We'll come back. Moving now to capital projects, finance. Ordinance number 69920, council members Cleveland, Johnson, Brechtelli, and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance to vacate a portion of Buechner Court. Is there anybody for Rick?
Yes, Councilman, I'm here.
Okay, Director.
Yes, sir. So this is a remaining dedicated section of Buechner Court is 8-foot stub located off the north side of Broadway between Fowler Avenue and McBride Avenue on the southeast side of Cleveland within Slavic Village. The purpose of this request is to facilitate the construction of 2 4-story mixed-use buildings with commercial space on the first floor and apartments on floors 2 through 4. In addition, the project will also construct townhome buildings between the rear of the mixed-use buildings and Hector Avenue to the northeast. We do have consent from Councilwoman Cleveland for this vacation.
Okay. And in addition to Councilman Cleveland, do we have Councilman Johnson? Do you have comments on 699? Any concerns, any problems with this one?
No, I'm fine with it, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Councilman Brancatelli?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an important vacate for the Slavic Village Gateway project, an NRP project that's being done with University Settlement and creating an amazing development along the main entryway into the Broadway community. Fully support this legislation. Thank you.
Okay, any further comments on ordinance number 69920? Hearing none, ordinance number 69920 stands approved. Thank you, Director. Director, you don't have anything else, do you? Any other capital projects?
No, there are none, sir.
Great, so you're done?
Yeah, can I be dismissed?
Mr. President, before
You are
that,
dismissed.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman?
just before that happens, I still haven't received the timeline for, maybe I missed it in my email, but I still haven't received the timeline of the capital projects.
Director, have you submitted to Councilman Jones the timeline that he requested?
We have a request from, I think it was Councilman Brancatelli's committee for some additional information. The staff is working on that right now. We should have that out this week to the council.
Yeah, those, Mr. Chairman, if I can, yeah, the director and our committee has been working together, and those requests are being put together and will be distributed as soon as we get them, Councilman Bashir Jones.
Okay, yeah, let's just get those done. And
Yeah, we have final reviewing them right now.
yeah, if we could get those done and get moving, I'd greatly appreciate it. And send an email to Councilman Jones' office, just so he knows where we are in the process. where you
Okay,
are.
so we'll do that.
Okay, but the sooner the better.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving now to community development, we did that. Human resources, is Director West with us? Anybody, trying to look at, anybody here for ordinance number 72720?
Unmute, Gina. I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Here. Okay, yeah, Jen, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, let me read this. This is ordinance number 72720 by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance approving the collective bargaining agreement with the Municipal Foremen's and Laborers Union, Charter Municipal, AFSCME Local 860, AFL-CIO, Supervisory, Non-Supervisory, formerly Local 1099, and to amend section 26 and 27 of ordinance number 32315 passed March 30th, 2015, as amended, related to compensation for various classifications. Gina?
This piece is to ratify the tentative agreement for the laborers. This union used to be 1099. They are now local 860. It's about 521 employees in this union, supervisory and non-supervisory. They have agreed to the pattern wages and the pattern insurance, and we are asking for approval.
And this is the standard 222 increase. And looking at the section 26, the changes, there's a lot of changes, but they are all, they're all within pennies, really. I don't think I see one that's a full dollar increase. So it's all pretty close.
Yes.
Questions, comments on ordinance number 72720? Councilman Joe Jones.
Mr. Chairman, what is the total amount of this? I know that the union has merged. So would that make this union one of the largest unions in the city? Mr. Chairman, to the director.
Gina, do you know that?
Mr. Chairman, to Councilman Jones, we have about 521 employees. No, this is not one of the largest unions in the city.
And this is 860 union, correct?
This is 860, formerly 1099.
And so what's the total number, Mr. Chairman, to the director, in terms of the number for 860 now?
521.
That's for the whole union?
That's what I have, and I will check it again, and I'll get back to you just to make sure, to confirm.
So is this 521 employees from 1099 that's joining 860 union?
These are the employees that were in 1099,
Right.
and now they're 860.
Okay, and there was 500 total?
521, and I will confirm that.
Right, so it's 521 members.
Yes.
From local 1099, and that was the SEIU union, right?
No, that's 1099. Those were the laborers.
Of the laborers. Okay.
SEIU are custodians, I believe.
That's right. You're right. And then of those, so then you'll get back with the total number of how many folks are in that 860 union?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then what was the total amount of money with this transaction? I know the chairman said pennies. What's the total?
This
How
is
much does it cost you to do this?
This union agreed to the 2% for 2019, 2% for 2020, and 2% for 2021. So this is based on their wage schedule.
Okay. No further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
If there are no
Director.
further questions, ordinance number 72720 will be considered by the full council later this morning. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody here for 693 yet? That's the finance piece with the Cleveland Foundation.
Yes. Andre.
I don't, okay, I'll go with it. I don't see on the screen. Oh, I know he's in the committee room. Got it. I just got word we're all good. Okay, I'm gonna go back to ordinance number 69320, which we began with. Ordinance number 69320, Councilmember Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Finance to enter into an agreement with the Cleveland Foundation to establish, manage, and implement the Greater Cleveland COVID-19 Rapid Response Fund program by providing grants to local nonprofits to assist them with COVID-19 related issues. Andre?
Yes, sir. This ordinance authorizes the Director of Finance to provide $100,000 to the Cleveland Foundation for the COVID-19 Rapid Response Fund. So it's actually the city providing funds to the foundation.
And does this ordinance authorize the agreement as well as the distribution of funds?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is the total, what is the fund value at this point? Total number of dollars?
I think Dale can respond to that.
Sure. We've raised about $8.9 million. And that would include the 100,000 that you guys had said you were going to be able to donate to us.
Great. Okay. Okay. Questions, comments on ordinance number 69320, Councilman Blaine Griffin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to let you know that myself and Chief McCall, myself representing the council side and Chief McCall representing the administration, have been a part of this committee. And this committee has done a great job of really stretching resources to do everything from helping people with food to shelter to hotspots for mobility, for digital access and everything else. So they've done a lengthy job, and there's been a very, very involved process, and all of the philanthropic organizations and several other philanthropic individuals throughout the city have contributed significantly to this fund. So the city and the county only gave $100,000. That was after a conversation that we had with the mayor and yourself and a couple of other people that we will present to this council. That would be our share of $100,000 that would go to a bigger pot that ended up being almost about $9 million, and they're about to go to their second phase. So just want to let everybody know that we have been involved in this, and we have been trying to make sure that the resources go to our neighborhoods. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Joe Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you could give a little bit backdrop on the rapid refund response, what's the mission, what are they trying to do? I know it's dealing with the COVID virus, but what services are they looking to provide, and who's providing those services?
Yes, absolutely. We've now have almost 70 foundations or individuals, actually 70 staff foundations who've given money to the fund. Over 2,000 individuals have given dollars to the fund. And we started the fund on March 18th, right after the schools were closed by the state. And we understood that COVID-19 would be a pandemic that none of us had experienced in our lifetime, and that food and shelter and PPE would be needs on the ground immediately. And so unlike having a 6-month process to get money out the door, we very quickly put our egos to the door. We came together in a way that the Frank Foundations have not done before in this space. And we did weekly grant making and bi-weekly grant making to get money out the door to both our hubs, so like the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, but also we understood that many of our families couldn't get to the food bank, and they turned to their local institutions, neighborhood institution that was doing food. So we started calling it the hub and spoke model. So I think every part of the city has been touched by these dollars, and we're going to do it again. We've already raised another 3 million for phase 2, because
Wow.
we understood the need is great, and it's needed right away, and it's needed on the ground really deeply by a lot of different types of organizations. Mental health, food, PPE, shelter, digital learning. You know, we stay mostly in those basic needs areas, but we understand that, you know, even just capacity building, helping people, these organizations make it through so they can understand how to manage their budgets through lean times is very important.
And Director, I'm sorry, what's your name?
My name is Dale Anglin. I'm the Director of Youth, Health, and Human Services at the Cleveland Foundation, and I help manage the COVID fund along with some other funders.
Well, you've done a great job, you know, and I really appreciate that, you know, the hard work that the Cleveland Foundation does in the community. And I presume you've already, thank you. I presume you've already spent the entire 8.9 million?
We've spent up to about 200,000, and that's just going to move over into phase 2.
So when you get these funds, which is good, right? So
Yes.
these funds
Timing is
are,
actually good.
that's right. So these funds are going to be used to do what? What kind of services will we be providing? I know food is one of them.
Yeah,
Uh,
PPE is another one, getting people masks and cleaning supplies and things like that. We help
Are you-
depopulate the homeless shelters. We'll probably
Okay.
contribute to that again.
Okay.
A little bit of everything
Oh,
in that
that's
area. But I will say food, but food in multiple ways, right?
right.
Cheese.
So how do we get, because I know one of the things I've observed this year, we're just working with my population, is the food scenario is much major than I initially realized.
Yes.
So it's like all of our churches are full. There's a massive need. How do I work with you to try to get some of those services in our area
Absolutely.
and helping?
Absolutely. Our portal is going to open back again in about 3 weeks.
Mhm.
We'll have a pretty clear process delineated on our website. You do have to go through the foundation website, although it's a much quicker process. And you
Okay.
can, anybody can feel free to call me to help them work through. We worked with a lot of groups who weren't used to applying to us to make it through the process. So
Okay.
we're happy to talk to people before they apply.
Great.
They can have
We're
a
actually
sense of, you know, what we're interested in.
we're actually doing that over in our neighborhood. We have a number of things that we're going to be doing in terms of offering services with COVID testing, in addition to immunization. We're going to be feeding the people, and also telling them the significance and importance of filling out the census, and also the importance of how it is that you should wear a mask to protect yourself and your family.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of things going in addition to voter registration. So I certainly would love to get your number so I can call you. I get my assistant on it, see what we could do to tap in and create some kind of synergy and relationship on this side, and help our people.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Do you have it? Can you give it out now?
Sure. 216-615-7137. And that can be to anybody. We're happy to work with grantees before they apply to help them understand how to apply.
Oh, you're wonderful. And I just want to thank you for doing such a great, wonderful job. I want to thank the administration. My colleague stated that he was working on it, as well as Valerie McCall and Blaine Griffin. So really appreciate the work they do to help the citizens of the city of Cleveland, and really appreciate the Cleveland Foundation. God bless the foundation. We're really appreciative that we have a tool that can help us with our people and our citizens. And thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you, sir.
And I will be calling you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman. Thank you very much, Councilman Jones. Councilman Brancatelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of quick questions. One, it was mentioned that the funds have already been allocated. Do we have a list of where those funds have been allocated to?
Yes, we can get you a list. We funded about 160 or 170 organizations in 3 counties, Cuyahoga, Lake, and Geauga, because that's the footprint of most of our foundations. Although the bulk of that went into Cuyahoga and the bulk of that went into Cleveland.
Great, thank you. And and this might be to the law department. This is $100,000, and I know it's a drop in the bucket for the overall and a great amount that you've raised, but more this is for the law department. My understanding is that if we contribute funds that then get redistributed, there has to be individual contracts to each community organization that received funds from the city. Can somebody from the law department answer that question? Through the chairman.
Okay, so Andre, I don't know if you can if you can answer the councilman's questions.
I'll get an answer for you today, Councilman Brackatelli.
Okay, this is relevant. Director Ebersol and I are working with local CDCs that we were putting a pool of money together to help underwrite costs for projects throughout the community. We were told we could not do that. And so there's a concern that I don't want to, one, do something that's illegal by putting money into a pool of funds that aren't contracted specifically to the CDC. And I know Director Ebersol's on the call as well, on this meeting as well. So I want to clarify, if we can do that, that's great, because it'll be much easier for management, because it's less contracts the city has to do. Not that Director Ebersol doesn't have anything else on his plate, but to do 200 contracts for rapid response that they've been doing for our businesses, but we've been trying to do that through the CDC. So I want to get a clarifying point on that, Andre.
Understood.
Thank you, and great work, Ms. Engler.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Bashir Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a couple concerns, and one of them being that even with Councilman Jones asking the questions, you know, we shouldn't have to be in this space asking questions about something that's coming before us. We should know about it prior to. And if I received the email, it could have went over my head. I mean, this is such an amazing program, and Ms. Anglin is doing such a great job over there at Cleveland Foundation. And with all due respect to Councilman Griffin and others, you know, these are the type of programs that I would love to be a part. I don't want anybody representing for me. I have my own voice, man, and I want to be a part of stuff like this. And I have residents who are in need of support like this. So when these type of things come up, I don't know if we're sending out emails and saying, hey, any council people want to be a part of this, anybody would like to take part, we should be given opportunities to be a part of amazing programs like this, and not having to ask questions at the table because we didn't know anything about it. And then it kind of puts you on the hot seat, because of course we're going to support it, because who wouldn't support it, right? But you know, when we have so many residents who are asking questions about these resources, and then we come to the table and voila, it's right in front of us. You know, for me personally, I'm gonna speak for myself. I had no idea about this, and I would have liked to known, or at least given the opportunity to be a part of this, because there's no reason why the city should just only be given $100,000. I mean, that's, you know, so at least we could have given the opportunity to fight for more, or to look within our own resource. I would have liked to given some money from my account and Joe Jones' account. You know, I think that he, him and Matt, man, they got some money, man. You know, I think we could have pitched in a little bit more, is what I'm saying, Council President. So if we could just have a heads up prior to coming to, if I can have a heads up, speak for myself, if I can have a heads up prior to, you know, this coming in front of us, you know, I would have loved to have been a part of this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Dale, thanks for everything that the foundation's doing in this important issue. I think this is great work, and let us know how we can help. Seeing no further hands, no further questions or comments, ordinance number 69320 stands approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to move to economic development at this point. Is Director Ebersol with us? Is there somebody?
Yes, I am.
Director, how you doing? Hey, Director.
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. We have ordinance numbers 652 and 653. Was 599 supposed to be on the calendar today?
I don't believe so.
That was the Walworth vacate for community rebuilders.
Oh, yeah, it is on the calendar, but I'm not familiar with that piece of legislation.
Chairman, I'm here for that today.
You are, okay.
Yes.
So what I'm gonna do, if I could do 652, 653, and then I'll go to 599. But I don't believe I have, Madam Clerk, I don't have in my stack, I don't have 599 that I can find anyhow. So if we could just, oh, actually I do, it's in public, it seems like it's in the public utility stack, so I'll find it. All right, so let's begin with ordinance number 65220, Councilmembers McCormick, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request. Emergency ordinance authorizing the mayor and commission of person supplies to acquire and reconvey properties presently owned by 75 Public Square, Ohio LLC, or its designee located at 75 Public Square for the purpose of entering chain of title prior to the adoption of tax increment finance legislation authorized under section 5709.41 of the revised code. Director.
Thank you. This is the first of the two ordinances that are precedent to entering into a non-school TIF for the redevelopment of the project. This is the project at 75 Public Square. This is going to be redeveloped by the Millennia Companies as a new housing development. The project will include 114 apartments, new restaurants, retail space. They're going to invest almost $42 million into the project, creation of 13 new jobs at the site. We're excited about this historic rehab and how it will reactivate that corner there at Public Square and take a landmark building and make it a lot more active again.
Great, thank you. And this, this has been heard and recommended for approval by the Committee on Development Planning Sustainability. Chairman Brancatelli, do you have further comments on 65220?
Fully supported, thoroughly reviewed, and I'll ask my colleagues to support. Thank you.
Thank you. And this project and the subject of this ordinance falls in Ward 3. I'd like to hear from local councilperson Carrie McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this is one of the most significant buildings in and around the Public Square neighborhood. And it's great because Public Square is now really starting to feel like a neighborhood within itself with all of the investment, new residents that have moved there. As noted, this is a tough rehab for this building. A lot of historic and other issues that have to be taken care of when in the process of renovating this building. So fully support this legislation, Mr. President. Important piece of the puzzle in Public Square. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, Councilman Joe Jones.
Mr. Chairman, to the director, I know that first I'd like to commend my colleague for the improvement in his community. And then second, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the director, how much money is this will be lost for the Cleveland Public Schools with the TIF?
None. It's a non-school TIF.
So none of this, the school will collect its taxes on the property?
Correct.
Is that on all three of these pieces?
It's on both pieces that I have today.
Okay. Does that also include 599.20?
I'm not familiar with 599.
So 651 and 652 are all the same?
651 and 652 are both part of non-school TIFs.
And so, okay, great. Well, hey, Mr. Chairman, no further questions. Congratulations to my colleague.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Bashir Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, to my one of my favorite colleagues, Carrie McCormick, congratulations. I really need your assistance, Councilman, down there, man. Millennia, they're doing a great job. I'm not sure that I've received the email from them as of yet. I don't know what's going on with my emails, but they're also the owners of Lexington Village, as well as Rainbow 1 and Rainbow 2. We had some conversation, and Director, I just want to say to you too, man, I probably, out of all the directors, I've been talking with Director Ebersol more than anyone. He's been really on top of it, man. So I really appreciate just getting things in order. But if I could set up a meeting with Millennia and just discuss with them some of the issues that I'm having with some of their properties in my area, I would really appreciate it.
And Councilman, if I could speak to that, I've been working with Millennia and with your assistant on getting that meeting scheduled. So I'll hit them again, and then just let me know if it's not happening.
Thank you, Councilman Jones. Seeing no further questions or comments, ordinance number 65220 stands approved. Ordinance number 65320, Councilmembers McCormick, Brackatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the mayor and commissioner of purchase supplies to acquire and reconvey properties presently owned by Stonelay Companies LLC or its designee located at 2020 Lorraine Avenue for the purpose of entering chain of title prior to the adoption of tax increment finance legislation authorized under section 5709.41 of the revised code. Director?
Thank you. This is, again, the first piece of the two that will be required for implementation of a non-school TIF. This is supporting a new development at West 20th Street in Lorraine by Waterford Companies, a company out of Chicago. So good to get some investment from out of market into our market here with this project. This will be a 240 unit apartment building. It'll be a roughly, I'll look here real quick. I think it's a $25 million project, if I remember correctly. Again, 240 units, 5 new jobs for the project. Oh, 64 million. Wrong. I had it backwards. So yeah, $64 million. They're financing this mostly out of cash, which is also good. Again, out of market equity going into our project, and excited to see it happening. So.
Thank you. And this legislation has been heard and recommended for approval by the Committee on Development, Planning, and Sustainability. Chairman Brancatelli on 65320.
It was thoroughly reviewed and urge my colleagues to support. Thank you.
Thank you. And this falls in Ward 3, represented by Councilman Kerry McCormick. Councilman on 65320.
Thank you, Chairman. As we discussed in, or President Chairman, either way. As we discussed in DPS, this is an exciting project for our neighborhood. It has gone through our community process, and a part of that, Mr. Chairman, is a set aside of rent-controlled units, as well as we've asked them to also, the community has asked them to contribute towards funding improvements in public space for the whole neighborhood near the project. So we had a good working relationship with this developer, and they have agreed on those conditions as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilman. Seeing no hands, no questions or comments, ordinance number 65320 stands approved. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to 59920. Commissioner DeRosa, you're on the call? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ordinance number 59920. Councilors McCormick, Casey, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Purchase and Supplies to sell city-owned property no longer needed for public use located near the northwest corner of Walworth Avenue and West 44th Street to Community Rebuilders LLC for the purpose of redevelopment. Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, so Community Rebuilders LLC is building a 6 townhome development and adjacent to this parcel. And this parcel is about 3,600 square feet, and it would serve as the backyard to 2 of the units. And so this would be part of the backyard for the townhome development.
Okay.
Yep. And so the CPP's land was formerly used as storage and parking, but has no current use for CPP. This land is at the rear of the development site and will serve as the backyard area. The design has gone through city planning and community development review and has received approval. All zoning changes and variances are in place, and the adjacent land bank lots have also been sold to the developer. So this is the final piece of land needed for site control. The appraised value was only $50, which was too low for us. We negotiated $1,000 sale price. And it is a sloped somewhat undevelopable parcel on its own. So that's why it had a low appraised value.
Thank you, Commissioner, and that explains why it was in the public utility stack because of the CPP. So I've got two cheat sheets I'm working off of. So trying to keep everything straight. Okay, so
Yes.
this ordinance 59920 has been heard and recommended for approval by the Committee on Public Utilities. Chairman Casey, do you have anything further on 59920?
No, Mr. President, fully vetted, and we recommend passage.
Thank you. It has also been recommended for passage by Committee on Development, Planning, Sustainability. Chairman Brinkelli.
Thoroughly vetted and fully supported.
And I believe this falls in Ward 3. Councilman Kerry McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this is in the Fenwick neighborhood of Ward 3, which we are excited to see investment in the neighborhood. This is a part of Ward 3 that has not seen the investment as other parts of Ward 3 or the city. So we are excited to see these are single family homes being built on Fenwick on currently vacant property that's kind of been an eyesore for a while. So we're excited about this property. I agree. I don't think it has any public purpose. And I support this sale to allow for this investment to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it. Councilman Joe Jones, questions on ordinance number 59920.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the issue is that, and I love my colleagues. I know he's a downtown colleague, and he is getting a lot of development in his neighborhood. And I just need to get just a little bit. And so the question is to the director, how can we direct funds so that it's that not just one neighborhood or two neighborhoods or a handful is getting this kind of development? And we need to kind of spread this around a little bit. And I have a number of projects I would like to work on, and they're just stuck. And so I don't know why they're stuck, but I'd like to start seeing some kind of investment in an entire neighborhood. And I'm not seeing that as it relates to housing in my community. So I just want to, Mr. Chairman, say, how do we balance it a little bit so that we can have a little bit over here, a little bit over there, everybody gets something. And so, I'm just putting it out there. Can you work with me, Director, on doing something in our neighborhood on these levels and these scales? It would help to transfer and transform our community and help us to stabilize our population. But we need help.
Councilman, the commissioner generally deals with real estate and purchasing supplies and transferring land. That's kind of a broader question for community development, economic development, and.
Well, I know they're all listening, Mr. President. So I just want to put it on their thing because they're going to come and ask for money for levies, and our people need to have the same kind of investments. We feel that we give and contribute always, all the time, always give our vote and support to one party, and at the end of the day, we don't seem to get any love at the end of it, and that's the reason why this national election is so close, is because you have people who feel that they give in 99.9% of the time, and they never seem to get anything in return from their government. So that's my ask here at this table. Can we spread the wealth a little bit? Can everybody get a little bit?
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. President.
If there are no further questions, ordinance number 599 stands approved. At this point, we're going to move to Director Howard, you with us? Is Director Howard with us? I thought I saw him earlier. All right, so Chief's with us and the director. Okay, I have 7 ordinances for consideration. All of these have been heard and recommended for approval by the Committee on Public Safety. I'm going to begin with ordinance number 51520. Councilmember Zone and Kelly, by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorized Director of Public Service to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the United States Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives and the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office to collaborate on the collection, management, and analysis of crime gun data, and to authorize the acceptance of asset forfeiture proceeds and other funds for the reimbursement of Cleveland police officer salaries and overtime. Director or Chief, whoever wants to take this one.
All right, thank you. Okay. Can you hear me?
Not all at once. Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, if you can hear me. Yeah, so ordinance 5/2020 passed by council with authorized feedback. Will authorize the Director of Public Safety, authorize me to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the United States Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives in the Coward County Prosecutor's Office to collaborate on the collection of management and analysis on crime gun data. This,
Director, we're not hearing you. Director, we're not hearing you. And you are not muted on our end.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The interagency collaboration will provide a proactive intelligence based identification tool to help interdict violent criminal offenders within the Cleveland metropolitan area in support of law enforcement agencies. The initiative is designed to produce crime gun intelligence and to operationalize that intelligence in a consolidated and coordinated manner. The goal of this initiative is to produce timely, precise, and objective intelligence data in order to focus our efforts of federal, state, and local law enforcement, forensics, prosecutorial resources on the most violent offenders in the city of Cleveland and surrounding areas. The legislation is important because this collaborative can be used to identify and to prosecute active shooters with our communities, thereby making our communities safer.
Thank you, Director. Anything further, Chief?
Mr. Council President and the committee, again, this basically a memorandum of understanding between the city and the county prosecutor's office and ATF, just to have our officers collaborate with them on this gun crime initiative. There is no money involved. If there were funds to be gotten through forfeitures, then we would come back to the council to have some of that funding reimburse the city for overtime for police detectives.
Thank you, Chief. Ordinance number 515 has been heard and recommended for passage by the Committee on Safety. Chairman Matt Zone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was thoroughly reviewed and discussed. And as you said, if there were any forfeiture money come back, in order to accept those dollars, it would need legislative authority. I ask my colleagues to support this ordinance.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Joe Jones.
Mr. Chairman, to the director, can we get a copy of that memorandum of understanding?
Yes, a copy can be provided.
Okay. Do you know when you might be able to make it available to me, Director?
Let me confer with law. This just it has to be drafted. This is just to allow us to enter into the memorandum of understanding. But I can communicate with council on its status.
And how many assets is the government talking about bringing in for this collaborative, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Are you talking about the assets for the federal government?
That's correct.
I don't. This is not. They're not talking. This isn't about bringing in assets. This is just creating the collaboration between entities.
I see. So they won't they're not bringing their people here to Cleveland to work with us. That there's not a number. I mean, how does that work?
No, I think that you're.
That's a different piece of legislation.
Yeah.
No, I know, but what we're talking about is that they're going to be working with us right now and collecting data and information, correct? And analyzation of the crime with the gun data. So someone has to go out there and collect this information. Is it our police officers who are doing it, or is it the government doing it?
Well, this is in collaboration with data that we're already gathering. This is a sharing of between agencies. So this isn't there aren't any new resources. This is creating a memorandum of understanding really with relationships that have common interest in reducing gun violence in the city of Cleveland.
I see. So they're basically going to be getting the data that our men and women are their products and analyzing it. Is that how is this working?
You're going to be working.
there are federal investigations as well. So basically, this is just bringing so that we're not recreating the wheel. This is their, the data and and information that they're receiving, the data and information that we are receiving, and bringing that together for a bigger picture. So this is basically just combining efforts and information that we are receiving through our separate efforts and coming to the table together.
Well, I'm certainly all for it. I'm just trying to understand how it works. And so the issue is, are we going to be using technology like the shot? I know we have the shot spotter. The Commander Kutz was able to get a grant to get the shot spotter in the 4th district. I don't know exactly where it's located, but we certainly get a lot of shots in our neighborhood. Are we going to enhance this program at some point, maybe with the federal government funding shot spotters throughout the entire city of Cleveland?
Well, right now we're looking at the I believe it's, and Chief, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking in the 4th. This is in the 4th district. Once we start gathering data, of course, that data would be used and shared between us and our partners. And then as we move forward, looking at growing it and based on need and location.
Okay, and so, Mr. Chairman, I do got some other questions, but I'll wait to read a little bit more in depth the memorandum of understanding. And you're saying that you only have a rough draft of that right now. It's not completely finished.
This legislation here authorizes us to enter into a memorandum of understanding, so that it'll once we're authorized to do it, then we'll start to draft it and put it together. But this is a collaboration of conversations that have already that have been had. It's just going to be memorialized in writing.
Okay, I see. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the director.
Thank you, Councilman Bashir Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I made a commitment, that I will be voting no on every safety piece until we receive a diversity plan. Unfortunately, there's some great things that safety is doing, and we couldn't be the city that we are without safety. So I want to make it clear that I'm in support of our safety forces and our police and the great work that they're doing, and our chief and our safety director. But I really need for my colleagues, I really need for Chairman Zone, that I know cares about this like I do, that we need to have a diversity plan. It puts me in such a predicament, because these are some great things that I want, that's important. These are some great things, man. But, the foundation of what we're trying to accomplish is that we want to see a more diverse police force, a more diverse fire department, more diverse EMS. So, Mr. President and Chairman Zone, and the rest of my colleagues, I really need your assistance in really pushing this matter, because it seems like this continues to get pushed off the table, and I look like I'm anti-police, and I'm not. And I know that when I call on my Commander Todd and Commander Morris, who always comes out for me and takes care of my residents, and when we call police, they come out and do a fantastic job. But all I want to say that seems to be a conversation that continues to be put on the back burner, and as legislation continues to come to us, we still haven't gotten a timeline of when a diversity plan will be created for us and for the citizens of the city, because that's what not just Bashir, that's what people are calling on and calling for. So I'm just saying, Mr. President and Chairman Zone, if we can push for a timeline of a diversity plan for our safety forces. I don't want to say no every time, because I seem to be the only one saying no. I don't want to be no on things that are so good. So can I get assistance from our leadership to push for a diversity plan from our newly safety director, at least a timeline that will say this is when this will be done? Because at some point, I believe at some point, this can become a even greater headache. So, Mr. President, is that something that we can that we can do?
Yes, Councilman Zone, you have a comment on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and to our colleague, Councilman Jones, the issue was raised again last Thursday. I committed to him that I would follow up with the safety director and have a sit-down conversation on how we proceed with the path forward. So the request has been made. We're going to work on it. As everyone knows, we're living in very uncertain times with this COVID pandemic. And so working through that, but we'll commit to do that. Director Howard, you and myself and Council President Kelly and Councilman Jones will have a conversation next week to discuss a path moving forward.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Jones, you good?
I want to join this.
Councilman Blaine Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Back to this technology, and I understand that it's going to be in the 4th district. Let me make sure that I understand this. So every gunshot has sort of like a fingerprint. So how would this go into a national database, or how would this be collected? And, you know, I know that we always want to make sure that we protect Second Amendment rights, but how would this be, how would this go into a database? How would it be tracked, et cetera?
If somebody could answer that as briefly, that's separate from, there's a separate issue from 515, which is just the MOU. But to the extent that you can answer the question, I'd appreciate it.
I'll hold in, Mr. Chair. I thought that we were talking about this specific technology, but I'll hold if that's the case.
This is just the MOU.
I'll wait until we talk about the conversation with the actual technology. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Joe Jones.
Mr. Chairman, I certainly completely concur with my colleague, Barshir Jones. So I won't beat the issue of diversity that is certainly needed in our police department. I think if we have diversity in all the police departments across the United States of America, we wouldn't have the explosion that we're finding ourselves in as a nation. And part of that is because we have lopsided scenarios all across the nation. And I think with diversity allows for police officers to get to know each other, know how, the diversity of cultures and can be able to relate better to serving their customers, which are we, the citizens of the United States. So if we could have me included in the process of diversity, this has certainly been a subject matter for me from day one, almost 20 some years ago. And I would love to be a part of and participate in that committee. And when Mr. Jones meets with the chairman, I want to be there at that session as well. Can we make that possible, Mr. Chairman, to the chairman of the safety committee?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, ordinance number 515 stands approved. Ordinance number 55520, Councilmember Zona Kelly by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to amend section 2 of ordinance number 1388, 2019, passed December 2nd, 2019, relating to accepting grants from the County Public Safety and Justice Services for the FY 2019 Violence Against Women Act for sexual assault advocate and for law enforcement and prosecution components for the Cleveland Domestic Violence Program to change the source of the matching fund. Director? Unmute, please.
There we go. Oh, thank you, Council President. Ordinance number 555-2020, if passed by council, will amend section 2 of ordinance number 1388-2019 relating to accepting grants from County Public Safety and Justice Services for the various fiscal year 2019 Violence Against Women Act programs to correct the funding source of the matching funds associated with these grants. The funding source in the ordinance number 1388-2019 indicated the funding for the matching funds reimbursement was Fund 10 SF-027. However, Fund 01-6002-6397 is the fund number that the matching funds were pre-encumbered by on journal entry RL 2020-32. The purpose of the grant is of Section Ordinance 1388-2020, that this change pertains to is the sexual assault advocate component of the VAWA grant program. The purpose of this component is to provide funding to enhance the investigation of sexual assault cases. The City of Cleveland will contract with the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center for one full-time victim advocate assigned to the Cleveland Division of Police. The advocate was assigned to the Sex Crimes Unit beginning January 2015. This legislation will enable the Department of Public Safety to continue providing a critically needed service to the victims of violent crimes and to the public. The grant award related to this was $41,659.50. The matching funds is $13,886.50 for a total project amount of $55,546.
Thank you, Director. And this is a grant that we've been receiving for years, if I'm not mistaken, for, I believe, as long as I've been here or close to.
That's correct.
Is there any significance to the change in the matching, the source of the matching fund? Is that just is there any significance that we should attach to that?
No significance. It's just from where it's being pulled from. But it doesn't impact services or anything of that nature.
It's an extremely important grant service. I had asked during the hearing, and I'm just gonna put it out there again, because the subject matter of this is the Violence Against Women Act, sexual assault for advocate for law enforcement prosecution components of the domestic violence program. Where are we with the staffing of the domestic and sexual assault units? Like we talked about that, but Chief, can you? I wrote it down, but I don't have it. Can you tell us where we are with those units?
Hey, Mr. Council President and Committee, I don't have the exact numbers before me either. I didn't know we were going to go back over those, but neither one of those units, either of those units are at 100% staffing. Right now, we actually have a couple detectives within sex crimes that are going to get promoted here real soon to sergeant. So there is an anticipated assignment out for both of those units, as well as our homicide unit, to put more detectives in all three of those units long before year's end. We hope to get those units close to 100% by the end of the year, although I kind of doubt that'll happen with some of the things going on with our staffing right now. But the goal is, and the goal has been, to keep them at 100%. And we talked about the difficulties of remaining at 100% last Thursday.
Okay, thank you, Chief. And we're not going to solve this today at this meeting, on this call, but you know, I just couldn't let us go past this ordinance with the subject matter and not bring up the fact that those units have to be fully staffed. We have to get them up to the level that they need to do their jobs. So I'm just going to leave it at that, but I'll follow up with you and with the chair and with the safety director to make sure that happens. So that is my only questions on 55520. This ordinance has been heard and recommended for passage by the Committee on Safety. Chairman Matt Zone on 555.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I speak on the purpose of the legislation, I just did want to comment on the point you tried to illustrate, and it's an important one, and I'm glad you're raising the matter. As we discussed last Thursday, I'm going to bring the chief back probably in next month, so we can do a hearing solely around deployment, looking at what levels we're at within the specialty units as well as within the district. So we'll get more granular down the road. As all of my colleagues on this call realize how important this unit is and the remarkable work that our partner agencies are doing to support the police department in helping to solve these crimes. This grant funding will go a long way towards doing that. And I'd ask everyone to support this piece of legislation.
Thank you, Councilman Zone. Further questions, Councilman Joe Jones.
Mr. Chairman, do we have someone can give us a little bit more information on this grant? It appears that we've had it for quite some time, and can tell us a little bit about, I don't know if this is a person that we're paying for the salary. Are they available to talk about this and how it has had a positive impact and has assisted with sexual assaults in the Cleveland area?
Chief, are you able to respond?
Dawn? Yeah, just in general, I don't know if Darren Hartsong is on the call, but Dawn has the historical perspective on this grant. Again, we've been getting it for years. It's a vital part of our investigations and our process within the domestic violence unit. The advocates that are embedded within that unit that assist our detectives are invaluable. They make sure our victims and those victims of domestic violence understand the process, and they actually help walk them through that process along with our detectives. So this mainly supports those advocates. It supports some of our detective functions within the unit as far as overtime and things like that. But I think this particular vow supports the advocates that work hand in hand with our detectives in the DV unit.
Thank you. Dawn, just read this. Dawn, do you want to add anything to what the chief just said?
Yes, that's true. We have received this grant for many years. The portion of the grant that the matching funds are related to is actually a little bit newer. We've only had that grant since 2015, and that specifically funded the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center, embedding one victim advocate into the sex crimes unit. And so they are there full-time at the sex crimes unit to assist any victim of rape. So again, that's brand new. We never had an advocate full-time in the sex crimes unit. So it's been a tremendous asset. It's a woman who works very well with the officers. She has a great respect of the officers and works very well with the victims. The Cleveland Rape Crisis Center is very supportive of this. They are so grateful for this program. And it's been amazing. So we're actually going to be putting a second advocate in there from another grant that we received. And they are going to focus on not only rapes, but also on, the unfortunate incidences of basically modern day slavery, where young women are being kidnapped and sold for sex or other things. So she's going to help with both of those horrible situations. So we're very happy for this grant.
Thank you. Councilman Jones?
And Mr. Chairman, I know that, you asked for this information, and it's something that it bothers me as a human being to realize that one of the greatest countries on the planet have this kind of activity that's happening in our country. And we've asked for knowing how many detectives are in that unit. Do we have a general idea of how many are there, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
The chief just answered that best he could, but if you could do a quick refresh for the councilman, chief. Did you not? I'm sorry, Councilman. Did I mishear you?
Well, no. The issue is that we've been asking for this information, and it seems like we should already have it. Do we have a general idea? Do we have an estimate? Is there anyone that could tell us how many detectives are in the sex crime unit?
Chief, could you please?
Yeah, through the chair, looking at my notes here, there are currently 13 assigned to, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. There are currently 21 detectives assigned to the sex crimes unit. Of those 21, three of those are supervisors. The actual number for the sex crimes unit is 21 detectives. So they're about 3 detectives down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the director. No further questions.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, ordinance number 555 stands approved. Ordinance number 66720, Councilmember Zone Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of various medical supplies, medical equipment, and pharmaceuticals for the Division of Emergency Medical Service, Department of Public Safety, for a period of 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Public Safety. Director?
Thank you, Council President. Ordinance 667-2020, if passed by council, will authorize the Director of Public Safety to enter into one or more requirements contracts for medical supplies, medical equipment, and pharmaceuticals for the Division of Emergency Medical Services, Department of Public Safety, for a term of 1 year, with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Public Safety. The medical supplies, medical equipment, and pharmaceuticals will be funded through the EMS operating budget, Fund 01, Subfund 001. These items have been submitted on RQN requisition number 6004 RL 2020-032 in Advantage. The medical supplies, medical equipment, and pharmaceuticals are essential to the Division of EMS to continue to provide care to the residents of and visitors to the city of Cleveland. The funding for these items is available in the EMS operating budget. Some information I believe is important to share is that approximately 100, the EMS receives approximately 120,000 911 calls. They respond to approximately 100,000 of those calls. They transport around approximately 80,000 patients a year, and they address approximately 2,000 overdoses per year. That's just some numbers that I want to share about the hardworking men and women of EMS and the services they provide to the city.
Thank you. Commissioner Carlton, do you have anything further you'd like to add to what the director said? We have two screens going.
Sorry.
I think you're signed in a couple times. That's
Working
normally
on
how
it.
that-
Council President, the medical requirements contract, we actually purchase and distribute medical supplies to the divisions of EMS, the Division of Police, and the Division of Fire. This requirements contract will allow us to enter an agreement where we can purchase the large number of medical supplies without going out to bid every time, and it provides for efficiencies for the division. We do supply all the divisions within public safety with medical equipment that assists us with the first responders and through the medical care transporting patients to area hospitals.
Thank you. And ordinance number 66720 has been heard and recommended for passage by Committee on Safety. Chairman Medzone, are you still with us?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman. This legislation was fully vetted and approved by the Safety Committee. As Commissioner Carlton said, the amount of medical supplies and drugs like naloxone and other types of purchases are essential. And I'd ask my colleagues to support this piece of legislation.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Joe Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the director, the numbers you read off here, I just want to make sure you said that that you respond to over 100,000 customer requests a year, and then 80,000 patients you transfer from their homes to the hospitals in an annual year. Is that right? I hope I wrote it right.
Those are approximate numbers. That's correct.
And Mr. President, to the director, I just want to, put a notation on your radar screen. I just think that the EMS workers do a wonderful job for our citizens. And we have a number of employees who live in our neighborhood, and the service that they do, they go above and beyond. I've had an opportunity to, in years past, over 20 some years ago, to ride in some of their facilities and then make recommendations to then Mayor Michael R. White to get new equipment in terms of trucks, and of which the administration at that time did. So I guess my question would be, Mr. Chairman, to the director, given the fact that I know that they do such a outstanding job in assisting our citizens, I'm really concerned by the various different comments I've received from the members who are in my neighborhood concerning the morale of the department. And so I would love, Mr. Chairman, to the director, have an opportunity to tell you a little bit more about what they're experiencing, and to seek ways and means to improving their working conditions, so that they won't be in environments where they're already under stress. To further get any more additional stress on top of the stress that they get into doing their jobs on a daily basis, is just, to me, we have to have some discussions about it. And since these issues have been brought to me, I definitely, off the cue of this comment, want to sit down with you and maybe with some of them and talk about how we can make it a little bit, the work environment a lot better than what it is. So I would appreciate that. And Mr. President, can we do that? Can we
Yeah,
make that possible?
Set that conversation. I'll ask Chairman Zone to help as well.
I appreciate it. And so I just want to put that there again. I support EMS 110%. And then, like my colleague on diversity for the police department, EMS used to have a really good, they were just naturally diverse. You lost a lot of people, you had a lot of turnaround. And it's my understanding you continue to have a lot of turnaround. But I want to do whatever I can as an elected official to assist with bringing EMS back to some diversity that it used to have in years past. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. If there's nothing further, ordinance number 66720 stands approved. Ordinance number 67420, Councilmember Zoni, Kelly, by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept a grant from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security for the FY18 Port Security Grant Program, authorizing the acquisition of licenses and authorizing the purchase and installation of a maritime radar security system, including associated equipment, maintenance, and support for a period of 3 years. Director?
Thank you, Council President. To Council, through the President, ordinance number 674-2020, if passed by Council, will authorize the Department of Public Safety, the Director of Public Safety, to apply for and accept the fiscal year 2018 Port Security Grant Program. This grant will fund the purchase and installation of a maritime radar system. The grant will reimburse the city for the cost of installing maritime radar equipment, for the purchase of computers for monitoring the radars, and for software and maintenance fees. Expenses to be reimbursed include the cost of the radar system and computers is $385,000. The cost of installation of the radar equipment, software, and maintenance is $278,200 for a total of $663,000. I'm sorry, $663,200. The grant award is $497,400 with matching funds of $165,800 for a total project amount of $663,200. The grant period is from September 1, 2018 to August 31st of 2020.
Thank you. And this is 67420 has been heard and recommended for approval by Committee on Public Safety. Councilman Matt Zone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are a border city. We have Lake Erie, which borders Canada, and this equipment will help assist our harbor master as well as Division of Fire. And I know Chief Cavillo is on the phone with maritime activity along our waterfront. It was thoroughly vetted. We had a good conversation in the Safety Committee and asked my colleagues to support this piece of legislation.
Thank you, Councilman. Further question 67420. Seeing none, ordinance number 67420 stands approved. Ordinance number 67520, Councilmember Zoni Kelly, by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept a grant from the United States Department of Justice COPS Office under the 2020 COPS hiring program for Operation Relentless Pursuit Program. Director?
I'm sorry. What was the ordinance number?
675.
Okay. One moment, I have them all here. Thank you, Council President. To Council the President, ordinance number 675-2020, if passed by Council, will authorize the Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept the fiscal year 2020 COPS hiring program grant. This grant will fund Operation Legend, formerly called Operation Relentless Pursuit. This legislation will enable the Department of Public Safety to participate in a program created by the Department of Justice that partners local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies to create a task force to combat violent crime. Other partners include the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Bureau of Criminal Investigations, the FBI, CMHA, the Ohio Adult Parole Authority, and the Ohio State Highway Patrol. The grant will reimburse the city for the full salaries and benefits of 30 new police officers over 3 years. 30 seasoned officers will be transferred to the Operation Legend Task Force. Expenses to be reimbursed include $7,968,944 for police officer salaries and benefits. That's the total for the grant. The grant period is from October 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2023, and will be extended to cover the full 3 years once officers are hired. There's no local match, and this is a new grant.
That was on the committee hearing when this was discussed, so I don't have any questions. But this was heard and recommended for approval by the Committee on Safety. Chairman Matt Zone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I shared on the committee last Thursday, I want to share a story why these types of initiatives are critically important. Cleveland Police can't solve crime by themselves. Crime does not stop at a municipal border, doesn't stop at a ward border. And you have to work with regional partners, regional strategies, police jurisdictions to help solve crime. In May of this year, I had a horrific situation where 2 people were murdered within 15 minutes of one another. And an individual was pulled out of his car on West 80th in Detroit, carjacked, put face down, killed execution style. His name was Eric Hakizimana. He was a 17-year-old kid who came from Congo 2 years earlier to escape a war-torn country, only to come to a safe country to have his life senselessly taken from him. But for Operation Legend, we would not have solved that crime. So I am thankful for special initiatives like this. Several of our colleagues have received communications and emails from people who are concerned about an occupying force in our city. And so, Mr. Chairman, if you would allow, I'd like to ask Chief Williams to speak about, because I've heard him speak on this matter. This is not an initiative like we all saw unfolded several months ago in the city of Portland, where people came in armorized vehicles and took over that street. This is way different. So if you would allow me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like Chief Williams to speak a little bit about the initiative.
Yeah, Mr. Council President and the committee, as Councilman Zone stated, this is a investigatory assignment into the city of Cleveland by Detective Skirnovich was a part of Operation Legend while he was conducting activities on the west side last week. And this initiative, with the assistance of, again, our federal, state, county, local partners, is designed to combat violent crime, specifically here in the city of Cleveland. And that's what it's doing. The significance of this grant, unlike COPS grants in the past, is that there is no match. Usually there is anywhere from a 1/3 or a quarter match for any funding given to hire officers on a COPS grant. We were able to lobby the COPS office and the Department of Justice, the cities involved in this initiative, to have no match, to make a bigger impact on the budgets of city governments that are participating in this program to the good for that city. So the entire salary benefits packages for those 30 officers will be borne by the federal government for a 3-year period.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just my last comment, and then I'll turn it back over to you. I know that we're calling this initiative Operation Legend. I'd like us to maybe consider, Chief, maybe we call this Operation Skirnovich. It would be a great way to honor that heroic police officer who's out there protecting and serving our city and keeping us safe. It's not something you necessarily have to respond to now, but we can't solve crime. We have seen and even received testimony from our U.S. Attorney, Justin Herdman, last Thursday, how violent crime is up not only nationally, but within the state of Ohio and in his footprint. He gave some very sobering statistics. There's a plethora of guns that are being poured out onto our streets, and there's reckless individuals who are just senselessly killing. They have no regard for their own life. We're not going to create safer communities for our families to live in unless we have initiatives like this. So I've been thinking a lot. I've been crying a lot thinking about this detective. And I ask my colleagues to support this piece of legislation.
Thank you very much, Councilman Zone. Councilman Mike Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I too am here to support the legislation, and I was there for the committee hearing for lengthy discussions, and I have met myself. I've met with U.S. Attorney and the U.S. Marshal, and I've sat down with both of them to discuss this program in great detail. As we've heard from the Safe Director, the Chief, and our Chairman of our Safety Committee, the violence that we're dealing with today, in my opinion, is unprecedented in the city of Cleveland. 2 weeks ago, when I spoke with a mom, I'm not going to mention her name, whose son got caught in the crossfire on East 149th Street, was there visiting a friend, shot in the head, and then left in the street to die like he was less than human. 34-year-old African-American male who was supposed to, a few moments later, was supposed to go pick up his girlfriend and take her to work. She wondered why he never came to get her. And listening to his mother, and then to see the other crimes across the city, the brutal killing of a Cleveland police detective. And what we're seeing is, and what we're all hearing is this is guns, it's drugs, it's turf, it's payback. It's been a perfect storm this year. As of this morning, my colleagues, we are up 27 homicides where we were this time last year. Think about that. 27 lives snuffed out due to violent crime in our city. I think it's also important that the administration, the chief's office, the safe director, continue to explain in detail what the purpose of the operation is, Mr. Chairman, because I too received emails, and I quite frankly believe that there are people who are trying to create some cloud or controversy over this by making this to be some kind, again, as the chairman indicated, some kind of paramilitary force that is here to, hit the streets in combat vehicles and combat outfits and suppress the rights. If I thought for one moment this program, this initiative, this grant was going to violate anyone's constitutional and civil rights or put combat troops on the streets, I would never support it, because I believe it'd be in violation of the Constitution. But this is to direct Cleveland police officers against the violence that we're seeing, the indiscriminate violence, innocent men, women, and children, people, women sitting, elderly women sitting in their homes getting shot, people afraid to come out on their front porches, more and more women, single moms trying to purchase guns for self-defense. Gun purchases, all-time record high. Requests for carry conceal permits, all-time record high. This should tell us all that we've got a major problem in this city. And again, unfortunately, we are rated in the top 7 most violent cities, the city of Cleveland, and in the country. So I want to say to those people, those naysayers out there that think that we don't need this, or somehow, again, and I want to ask for the safety director and the chief to clarify this, somehow that they think we can take these monies and put them in the social service programs. I've indicated to them, the ones who've contacted me, called me, or written me, that these funds are specifically designed to go after the violent gun activity and violent gang and drug activity. Do you want to clarify that to the chief and the safety director?
Can you clarify what the councilman just stated?
No, that's correct. The chief, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, Council President, to Councilman Polensek, that's correct. This funding is to hire Cleveland police officers, period. And the reason for that is because the Cleveland Division of Police has dedicated officers and will dedicate, when this process is done, 30 police officers to the task force operations to combat violent crime. It's not a First Amendment type of, excuse me, enforcement or Second Amendment. It has nothing to do with the constitutionally protected rights of individuals here in the city and around the city. It's strictly violent crime enforcement.
Okay.
So yes, confirm, Councilman.
Okay, and that, I think that's something we've got to continue to really drill down on, because there is this miscommunication out there, and our people, I think, that are trying to sow seeds of division that somehow that there's ill intent here, which I don't believe there is for one moment. I would not be supporting. The last question I wanted some clarification on: the 30 officers, they're going to be redeployed, and then out of the most up-to-date class, explain the transition of the 30. We're going to assign 30, and then how do we backfill those slots?
Yeah, Mr. Council President, to the councilman, we are currently vetting a class for the 147th cadet class for the Division of Police. We started that process yesterday. Out of that class, we're going to designate 30 officers to be applied towards this grant funding. That class will graduate sometime next. It's about a 7-month process. So if we get them in, let's say by the end of November, that class will graduate sometime July, August of next year. Those officers will be on the street as it pertains to the grant funding. But I want to make one more point on this, and I think this kind of brings it all home. And Councilman Polensek kind of hit the nail on the head. If you go and talk to residents that live in the city of Cleveland, that live in the neighborhoods where there's violent crime, and you ask them if they want more violent crime enforcement, be it from federal detectives and investigators, Cleveland police officers, state officers, county officers, if you ask them, do they want more or less violent crime enforcement? And I'm here to tell you, they'll say they want more crime enforcement here in the city of Cleveland. And that's what this grant is designed to do.
And Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleague, I totally concur with that. I mean, I'm getting those calls every day. They want more police on their streets. They want to see greater interaction, more community policing. They don't want to see less. They want to live in safety. They want to be able to walk down the street. They want to be able to go to the store. They want to be able, when I have a grandmother in Glenville tell me that she's afraid to let her grandkids come over for fear of what's going to happen to them. I can remember going to my grandmother's house in Glenville as a kid, never thought about being hurt or having anything happen to me. This is a collective issue. We got to join together, the council and administration and our citizens. And again, I say this, overwhelmingly, the people of the city of Cleveland, they want safe streets. They want these violent individuals dealt with and prosecuted to the fullest extent under the law and taken off our streets so we can live in peace and not have to be afraid to do business, to go to each other's homes, to interact with one another. So I support this grant wholeheartedly and 100%, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Joe Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. And also my colleague, Mike Polensek, I mean, he just hit this out the ballpark as relates to the need for more police officers on the streets. And it has been an issue that I've championed from day one. And I certainly don't envy you, Chief Williams. You have a heck of a job to do trying to deal with the fleeting resources you have and trying to meet the need in the neighborhood of the city of Cleveland, which is, as my colleague said, for us to be ranked number 7 in the nation is major based on our population size. And my question would be, Mr. Chairman, to the director, this new class is the 147th cadet class. How many cadets are in the 147th class, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
That's the class that we're in the process of seating now. We don't have a number of cadets for that class. Now we're working on seating that. We're working on putting together who those members of that class will be.
So we don't have nothing organized yet.
You know, what we're doing is we are engaged in meetings when we are reviewing all of the applicants during the process, which we call one in tens, and selecting the members for that class.
Okay. So do we know what that class size is going to be, Mr. President, to the director?
Chief, do you have an idea of what the approximate class size may be?
Yeah, through the council president to the councilman, we were budgeted for 50 officers for that 147 class. We hope to get approval from finance to add these 30 for a total of 80 officers for that class. The 50 we were previously budgeted, plus now the 30 that are going to be paid for by the COPS hiring grant. But we have yet to get that official approval. We've kind of gotten a nod to go ahead and select the class. There are currently 128 folks in the process, as the director stated, that we are reviewing backgrounds, qualifications, all that kind of stuff for those 128 applicants. And out of that, my goal is to select anywhere from 60 to 80 for that upcoming 147 cadet class.
Mr. Chairman, to the director, like my colleague, I received some information concerning this particular legislation that we're talking about. And, the people who wrote me don't even live in the city of Cleveland. And what I will say to them, as my colleague has eloquently stated, the crime in my neighborhood is epic. I've never seen the kind of violence in my neighborhood in 20 some years. And, the only thing I can say is that the system is broken and it's broke. It's not working. I know that you have had violent crimes in your neighborhood, Mr. Zone. I've had assassinations in my neighborhood. I have drive-by shootings of senior citizens' homes. I've received a phone call over the weekend from one of our top clergy in this city concerning one of his members, and just the act of God. She wasn't in her bed when the bullet whizzed right straight where she would be sleeping at, and ended up in the bathtub. So we started seeing this phenomenon in 2018 where homes are just randomly being shot up in our neighborhood. And we still have the gun violence. We have the robberies. We have people who, in fact, every day I'm finding out someone is getting killed in my neighborhood. So, or their houses have been shot up. And I need help, Mr. Chairman, to Chief Williams. Can we get more help, more police officers? And I see that this is a first good start of 30 police officers, but this is not enough. And so why aren't we looking at 100? Washington, D.C. needs to take care of its American citizens. And this government that's in power now said, what do you have to lose? And so my thought, Mr. Chairman, to the director, why aren't we asking for 150 or 200 new police officers? This 30 officers that you got in this program, I believe it might make an impact, but I'm not so sure. And I don't have the confidence that 30 police officers are going to help them make a difference in the city of Cleveland. Can we ask for more, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Director, do you know the answer to that?
So as Chief Williams stated, that this is an unprecedented grant for the 30 new police officers that was engaged with the Department of Justice. Right now it is what it is. We are constantly looking at our staffing levels, and we'll be reviewing those going into budget 2021.
Well, I got that, Mr. Chairman, to direct, and I don't try to be confrontational with you. But I'll remind you, going back 20 years ago, when Mike White was the mayor of the city of Cleveland, And then Bill Clinton was elected into public office. He came here to this town, he snubbed this mayor, and this mayor kicked his ass, and he brought 100 new borough police officers down on the ground. Now, I got you on that, Mr. President.
Okay, Councilman, listen, Councilman, you're out of order. Please don't use that type of language in this. And I would remind everybody that we have a healthy agenda ahead of us.
I got you, Mr. Chairman, but I'm having people getting killed in my neighborhood and I don't have no help. And so what I asked the director, he didn't answer it. And what I'm asking him is that when you go to the table, you have to get as much as you possibly can. So why can't we get more police officers than this measly little 30 police officers they're giving us right here, right now? And I need 30 of them in my neighborhood alone, Mr. Chairman, to the director. I'm losing population in my community because of the violence and the crime. And I went downtown and had a meeting with a very distinguished gentleman about 3 weeks ago. And we sat down in the area of a grassy knoll. It was so nice, so beautiful, nice restaurants, people sitting down on the grass, enjoying themselves, having lunch. The point I'm trying to make, Mr. President, is that I don't have an environment, not one location in my neighborhood where I can do that. The violence and crime is so bad that, 30 police officers are good, but I need 100 police officers, and you can give me 30 and you can take the rest. So, okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna ask the question again. Mr. Chairman, if the director would be so kind, can we please get more police officers and the powers that be? Can we get more police officers in the city of Cleveland? No citizen should have to live in an environment in one of the richest countries on the planet where they feel like they're gonna get shot up in their house any second.
Chief or Director, can you answer the question, will we get more police officers for the councilman?
Well, not under this grant, but we will be looking to hire more police officers.
Can I understand that when you said we're going to be hiring them, you only got a certain budget? Are we going to hire over the 1,600? Are we going to get another 100 down on the ground, Mr. Chairman, to the director? Because I don't have the resources here to protect my citizens. I need help.
Let him answer the question. We've heard the question, Councilman. Just let's have a little bit less comment. Let's let him answer. And we need to circle back to the legislation that's in front of us. We all have neighborhood issues. We all want more police. We all want more safety. But let's stick to the legislation in front of us. Chief or Director, if you can answer the councilman's question, please.
Yeah, Mr. Council President, to the councilman. As the director stated, we're always looking for avenues to hire more officers, be it on the general fund budget or on the federal government or state budgets and grants that that are made available to us. I've said at the table on numerous occasions, I'd like to have 1,700 police officers in this division, but you have to get to and sustain that 1,600 number before you can get to that 1,700 number. So we've been in talks with the administration, with our folks on how we up our numbers. But right now, as Councilman Polensek points out, we have to sustain that 1,609, I'm sorry, before we can start to move forward. And we're in the process of shoring that up.
Thank you. Councilman, questions on 67520, please.
Mr. Chairman, looking at this, this Operation Pursuit and Relentless, are they looking at putting resources in the Lee Harvard Ward 1 area in terms of spot shotter?
Chief or Director?
Through the chair of the council president to the councilman, this does not involve shot spotter at all. No.
Councilman?
And Mr. Chairman, you have a number of agencies that are going to be involved with this. How many? I see here BCI as an acronym. Who's they? I know the FBI is CMHA and Ohio Adult Parole, Ohio Highway Patrol. But what is BCI, Mr. Chairman, to the Director?
Director.
President to Councilman, it's Bureau of Criminal Investigations.
Councilman?
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, to the Director, looking at these partners, are these partners going to join the 30 new police officers that are going to be a part of this task force? Are their numbers substantial that would increase this number, or is just going to be these 30 officers working in some kind of data gathering and getting assistance and direction from these different partners who are in this process?
These 30 officers. The hiring of the new 30 officers would replace the experienced 30 officers that we put onto the Violent Crimes Task Force.
Well, I understand that. Is the partners that include the U.S. Attorney's Office, BCI, FBI, CMHA, Ohio Adult Parole, and Ohio State Highway Patrol, are they going to be adding to that? I mean, will they be having their officers as a part of our officers, maybe creating a total of 60 or 70 or 80 officers on the street assisting with this task force?
To Councilman, through the president, this would be just outlining the collaboration of resources between all of these partners, like BCI's resources with DNA testing, forensics. CMHA would assign whatever officers they would assign to participate in the task force. Adult Parole Authority, which is a key partner, will help us use their resources with keeping track of violent offenders. Ohio State Highway Patrol would assign their resources. So this would be a collaboration of resources, but the 30 new police officers that we would be hiring would be hired into CPD.
Okay, and Mr. Chairman, to the director, who do we get in contact?
If you could be as precise as possible.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, to the director, who do we talk to when we have these trouble houses, these houses that are causing mischief, mayhem, and the causing of bloodshed? Who do we talk to deal with these drug houses that we know are drug houses? Who do we talk to that's going to help us as council members as we pass off on this today?
Question, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Council President to the Councilman. Councilman, you know those complaints can be directed to your district commander or to the chief's office.
Councilman?
Mr. Chairman, do we have anybody here that would do this? Because I've turned them in and I'm not getting anywhere here with the police department. That's the reason why I told you it's broken.
Last question to Chief.
So do we have anybody here, Mr. President, that could help us? You know, because it's supposed to be Operation Relentless Pursuit or Operation Legend. So I want to see some legend and some pursuit in my neighborhood. So who do we talk to on this task force that could help us, Mr. President? That's all I'm asking.
Through the Council President to the Councilman again, those requests can be directed to the chief's office, and we have responded to your complaints, Councilman, several times.
We have 60 homes. We have one on East 143rd Street. So it's still up and rolling. I'm not sure if you've gotten onto that or not, but I went there just the other day just to check it out, and they're still in full swing.
Extremely interesting. We have to move, Councilman. Councilman Bashir Jones.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. President. This is something that really needs a lot more conversation and public comment on. And, I'm going to be voting no on this. Once again, I think, Mr. President, that we know that we are living in a city that there is a lot of crime that's taking place. And as we know, when we talk about this subject, it's always one-sided. It's always one-sided. We always talk about the crime, but we don't talk about the crime that happens to community members. And as we're looking at the future of this city, we can't police our way out of this situation. We can't police our way out of the situation. I don't know what community members some of my colleagues are talking to, but there's a ton of community members who believe what I believe, and that is more police in itself is not going to change the situation. Mr. President, over the weekend, I talked about, I posted something just saying, I want to send my love and gratitude to the officers who lost their lives. And then you had some people online who said, well, how dare you? How dare you even say anything nice about police officers? You talk about defunding, you always mess with our chief. They had all these type of things. Chief Williams, you really loved online, man. So the point is that we're looking at things in one way and not in both ways. I can fight to change a system that seems to harm Black and brown people more than anyone else, while at the same time being thankful to the officers who every day put their lives on the line. We live in a country where it's either Black or white, Republican or Democrat, this or that. And the fact is that we can do both. We can be both. And I truly believe that, we're still, if we need help with, we need help with, yes, some of the crime that's on the street, but we also need help in finding, dealing with the fact that you have a Desmond Franklin, who we still haven't seen any growth on that, or the hundreds of pictures that's been sent to me of people who have been brutalized by the police with no regard here in our city. So why can't we do both? So I would have hoped that, I know that the consent decree is supposedly trying to do that for us, but we are seeing that this has not been achieved. So I want to openly say that this is something that I don't support. I'm voting no on it, but not because it's not important for us to deal with the crime, but understand that that it's also a crime that our community members feel as if that when injustices happen to them, that no justice comes for them. But when we talk about crime, oh yeah, there's too many murders, there's too many killings, and people are shooting. And you're right about that. And that's something that we have to fight, and that's something that we have to work on. But simultaneously, we also need to work on building a stronger bridge between community and police. And the way that we do that is that when our police officers do something that is wrong, do something that is harmful to the community, that there's justice there as well. It can't be just justice. It can't be just justice towards Black and brown people who commit crimes. It also has to be justice towards those who are committing crimes against Black and brown people. So my vote is no on that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Blaine Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm voting yes on this. And I just want to put this in context. We've been doing this for quite some time, but I want to make sure that we look at this in a comprehensive way. When we originally started this, just as much money went into prevention, and then you also had some money that went into reentry. One of the concerns that I have about this is that even though when we take out some of the top heads of some of these organizations with RICO charges, then there's going to be a void that's going to be filled. And then that's when we have a lot of issues that we're going to have that might follow up with those folks that try to, get involved in those turf wars and other things like that. So my question to the safety director as well as to the chief, how are you going to be working once you eradicate some of these folks off of the streets and get some of them off of the streets? How are you going to be working to try to prevent the next generation? Because it seems like they're getting younger and younger and younger from emerging into being, into just falling into this vicious cycle.
Well, if I could, Mr. Council President, to the councilman, I'm a career law enforcement officer, been a police officer for almost 35 years. That's the majority of my life. And, we on the law enforcement side understand the prevention aspect. We understand the reentry aspect, and we're all for it. We're all for supporting that. We're all for giving whatever needs to be given on our front to be a part of that. But the question needs to be to those agencies and organizations and folks out there that do that type of work as their normal course of business. One thing that we've done in law enforcement is we push law enforcement and public safety into arenas that we're not trained or qualified to deal with on a consistent basis. So me, Councilman, my push has always been those folks that it's their normal course of business, whether it be psychologists, sociologists, social workers, community activists, those people that it's their course of business to do prevention exercises, reentry exercises, and to have those systems set up for folks. We're more than willing to support those folks, but you can't push all that on law enforcement. Our thing is crime prevention, crime detection, and, prosecution, assisting in prosecution of criminals. Yes, we're going to be engaged in the community. Yes, we're going to be with our community partners doing whatever needs to be done, but we need to push more on those agencies out there who, again, it's their primary function to do those things, to partner with us to make sure those things happen. And again, not even from the city perspective, from the nonprofit sector out there, from the private sector out there, people that are involved in those things need to kind of step up to the plate.
So Chief, you remember the days when we actually had the three-legged stool, prevention, reentry, and law enforcement. At no time have I ever asked law enforcement to fill the void of prevention and reentry, but I do believe that they need to work hand in hand. And the conversation of the day, which I want to remind my colleagues, is why aren't we investing more into some of these social problems and trying to deal with education, trying to deal with prevention, trying to deal with the psychologists and other folks that you're talking about. I do want to remind us that I believe we put 5.3 million to try to make sure that our rec centers and other places are places where we're dealing with trauma and some of those other issues. So I want people to listen in public to understand that we are investing in some of those other areas, that even though this grant focuses on law enforcement, it comes from the federal government. There's nothing we could do about that. Would I wish that they would still fund, like they did under the Obama administration, prevention, reentry, and law enforcement? Yes, sure. However, the grant stipulates that it's going to go to law enforcement. That's the reason why we've invested other dollars into trauma, informed care, and other things like that. So just keep that in mind. The other question that I have, Mr. Chair, to the director and the chief, the use of force guidelines. It's my understanding that the federal use of force guidelines are a little bit more rigorous and a little bit more a higher proof level than the local or the police guidelines. Is that true? And if that is the case, then what guidelines will they be judged by for use of force incidents that the people that are part of the Operation Legend?
Mr. Chair, to the councilman, I can answer that. It's the opposite, councilman. Our Division of Police use of force guidelines are probably about, in total, 5 different policies, probably about anywhere from 25 to 30 pages long. The federal guidelines for use of force are a lot smaller than that. And I won't get into specifics, but a lot smaller than that. And our officers, whether they are on task force or other operations around the city, are governed by the City of Cleveland Division of Police use of force policy, not any federal policies on use of force.
And that's good to know, because I think if I recall, ours is like 25 something, and most other municipalities might have about a 2 to 3 page use of force guidelines. So I just want people to know that there is a higher standard in Cleveland, and that this group will be operating under a higher standard. Intelligence-led policing. I'm very interested in how this group is going to really focus on intelligence-led policing. I know that there's been a network analysis done in the past to really identify the bad actors, to show the percentage of people that we're trying to go after. Are you guys going to do some of that to really try to make sure that we're pinpointing and going after the people that we need to go after? Or is this going to be a whack-a-mole that we just try to go after anybody that we see that fits the description of bad actors in the neighborhood?
Chief?
I think the chief is froze.
Okay, so this is going to be, it's definitely going to be the former. It's going to be the intelligence gathering. This is not going to be a whack-a-mole. This is going to be law enforcement using resources to gather intelligence in the community and surveillance and things of that nature. I don't want to get too much into the intelligence gathering here, but this will not be, you know, a random process. This will be a very intelligent, methodical, and deliberate process.
So where I'm going with this, safety director, and I believe the chief can respond as well if he's back, that this is going to be surgical. This is not going to be just go out and round people up. This is actually going after the bad actors that are repeat offenders, that are really the heads of the drug trade, that are really the heads of the group member involved cliques that we have. We're not just going out, just round up every kid that we see on the corner and everybody we see out in the street, right?
President, to the councilman, that is absolutely right. And I'm glad that you brought that up, and hopefully that will quiet, you know, the concerns of the citizens, that this is going to be a surgical effort. I also wanted to add that, you know, we are in a unique times. Everything that we do to make our community better has to be taken from a perspective of collaboration between our law enforcement and our community. We can't do this without that collaboration and cooperation. We have a common interest in making the city of Cleveland safer and enjoyable. That common interest that should be what unites us. It has to be what unites us. But to your point, it will be surgical, methodical. This is not a random grab all and see what we got.
Thank you.
All right, just as I close and round up, Mr. Chair, when we did studies in the past, when I wore a different jacket, we really boiled it down to about 8%, 6 to 8% of the folks in this city were responsible for a disproportionate amount, almost 70%, 68 to 70% of the violent crime in our community. I want people to recognize who we're trying to go after. We're trying to go after the ones with the guns. We're trying to go after the ones that are wreaking havoc on our community. This is intelligence-led policing to go after the top of the food chain. Of course, I agree with my colleague, Councilman Joe Jones, that we need some help going after some of the nuisance issues like house parties and speeding and some of those other issues like that. But we really need to do intelligence-led policing to really go after that. As I close, Mr. Chair, I hope probation is involved because they have a little bit more leverage than others. And I hope that many of the people that are pulling these guns are repeat offenders. So I hope the judges are involved, and I hope we could do court watches and other things to really make sure that we send that home. But I'm voting in support of this because right now we are in a crisis moment in our city. A lot of people say that, that there's denial at City Hall. There's not denial. There's, we recognize what we have to do. And this is one of the issues that we have to do. I do believe we need to be balanced. And we need to be make sure that we identify clearly who we're going after. But this is something that we have to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Phyllis Cleveland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to the director and chief and other staff. Most of my questions have already been asked and answered, but I did want to just register my support for this ordinance, and I will be voting yes. And understanding that right now what we're facing in our communities, what I hear from people in my neighborhood, and not just my neighborhood, but I have friends and family that live throughout this community. And right now we have an issue that needs to be addressed, and that's the violent crime, the criminal enterprise and gang activity that are adversely affecting the quality of life for many people in our community. The number of young people being killed and the number of people, again, we got people, middle-aged and older who are being killed. A lot of it is random violence. And so we're in a situation now that we have to deal with it, this specific issue. And again, it doesn't mean, as a body and as individuals, we all deal with and work on multiple issues at one time. It doesn't mean that we don't support more social service, public health initiatives for our community, because I think people will see that we do that all the time as well. This particular grant is for a specific purpose, and it's a needed purpose. And so I again want to indicate that I am voting yes. The people that I haven't spoken to one person in my community that says, turn this down. We don't want this. I haven't gotten that. And many of the people that I've heard from, again, don't live in the city. They don't live with the gunshots at night. The robberies, the carjackings, the drug activity, and, I think any of us can go through a litany of things and crimes and situations and areas that are real problems for us, and drastically affect the community that people live in. So, I know there are other grants out there, for more law enforcement, policing opportunities, like there are other grants out that are available for social services, reentry, prevention, for our young people in particular. So yeah, and again, we will deal with those things as they're in front of us, or many of us go out and look for those opportunities to support. Just one question or one point I wanted to kind of emphasize that Councilman Griffin brought up, and I look at it over my years in council, and one of the first few months, maybe first year of my tenure, there was a big takedown of a large drug and criminal enterprise, for lack of a better word, in my community. And while it was great, well, grace not the word, but it was necessary, but it left a void. And unfortunately, it left a void of leadership among a lot of other young men who did not have strong support systems and families and intervention services. And so, as Councilman Griffin stated, we've seen over the years that the people who are committing the crimes are getting younger. And quite frankly, someone who's 15 or 16, is even more reckless than someone, who's 18 or 19 or in their early 20s. And so we really have to, as a part of this initiative, also be looking at, what are we putting in place? That has to be a critical component. And I know the funding doesn't come under this, but we just have to be aware, of the unintended consequences. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Councilman Kevin Conwell.
Council President, I sit back and I listen to these grants to go through, or we give them the authority. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. We give them the authority, and everyone says this is good, this is great, and we've been saying that forever. But when they leave the table, it should be some kind of way that the safety director comes back 6 months from now or whatever to tell us where he's at. I mean, you could pass a grant and you say it's great. That's crazy to say that. And we don't know, are we hitting our goals and objectives? That means a lot to me when I vote for these, to give people the authority to seek dollars or whatever the case may be. You should bring back to council some kind of evaluation telling us that if we gave you so much money, we gave you the authority. And I hear what my good friend, Councilmember Blaine Griffin is saying, but the outcome measures is very, very important to me. If we can cut back on crime, and you can do prevention with crime as well, but they bring it back to us. Then we know that if, because you have to manage grants, you have to manage them. Then we know where we're at. Because if there's a glitch, let's say the safety director is putting 30 officers, or the safety director is pushing this this project, but we don't even know where he's at if he doesn't come back to tell us. I don't want to pass things. I'm tired of passing things. I've been asking for almost 20 years an evaluation process, where are we at? And they need to bring it back, Mr. President. I'm going to support this, but they need to bring it back and show us where they're at. Are they hitting their milestones? Is Joe Jones' ward quieter? Is Councilman Conwell ward quieter? And were there any issues and concerns while they're pushing this this grant? And they don't bring it back to us. And when they're at the table, they say, okay, yes, we'll bring it back to you, Councilman. But you know what? I don't get it. They never bring it back. They come, they say yes, so they can get authority from council, Mr. President. That's not right, and that's not fair. And we say it's good in this grant because the mission is good, but they don't give us the outcome measures. And that's what I have to say. And I'm tired of that. I'm really tired of it. It's disrespectful, really. It's disrespectful. And that's where I'm at. I support it, but I need to know where they're going. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. And you've been more than consistent in asking for, the results that you want. So I would ask that that there be a report prepared when this money starts coming in real time, get it back to Councilman Conwell, terms of what it's being used for, what the results are, and then make him understand that, his vote, mattered and counted.
And Mr. President, not just me, I bet you that the entire city council want to know the outcome measures. Because when you vote for something, you're wondering what is going on. Because we, Mr. President, we vote on a lot of things. I mean, a lot of things. And if they were to bring us back a report card, even my 6-year-old granddaughter have a report card. Brielle, she has a report card. And here we don't get that. So I mean, you do need to have the evaluations. And that means a lot. Then we can even write, you know what? You can write good policy, Mr. President, off a good evaluation.
Yeah, the
Because
council, I hear you loud.
you know where you're going. And so then we can write better policy, and then we know how to manage it. And then we can see, because sometimes policy changes. And then we can see which direction we need to go. But when they don't bring us back the evaluation, that's not a good thing. And that's all I get. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Much appreciated. Councilman Anthony Hairston?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few points before I go into my questioning. Councilman Conwell is correct that many times we support something, whether it's a grant or whether it's something through the budget, and we don't always hear back about the results, whether good, bad, or indifferent. But in this particular case, because of all the scrutiny, or because of the focus around this grant and Operation Relentless Relentless Pursuit, whatever we're calling this, I think it would be helpful to not only the administration, but to this body. Not helpful, but it is very much needed that we have some sort of communication back to us regarding what has occurred and what results or lack thereof as a result of us accepting this grant to hire these police officers. No doubt that I support anytime we are able to bring on more police officers who would do the right things in our neighborhood, okay? Because there's a difference. We can hire 150, 200, 300, 400 bodies, but if the officers that we bring in are not appropriate or correct for our communities, and what difference does it really make, right? We hear those sentiments from some of my colleagues about, having, as Councilman Griffin said, a balanced approach to this. Not only officers, but social services aspects, having the right fit for our communities. And I think sometimes that we get so far away from that because we just want bodies, where we don't really look at what's appropriate, what's correct for our communities, because every community is different. You can't stick a triangle peg in a circle hole. It don't work. You may think going in that it works, but oftentimes that it doesn't. So as relates to this grant, I am in support of this because, as Councilman Polenzek stated, I can name some folks in Glenville, Collinwood, Euclid Park, Nottingham, St. Clair Superior, who have been victims many of these violent crimes in our neighborhoods. And I can tell you one thing for sure and two things for certain, that they absolutely will have my behind if something like this was not supported, because they experienced something that maybe some of us haven't, maybe some of the others who are writing in opposition have not, but they themselves have experienced being victimized for whatever reasons, whatever situation. So nonetheless, that we have to be balanced in everything that we do. And so my understanding that unfortunately this grant does not allow for anything except for, Mr. Chairman and the Safety Director, for us to bring on the additional police officers that you all have indicated, correct? Just so I'm clear.
Director, if you can unmute.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time? You broke up.
I just want to be certain that this grant, as you all have indicated, that this is only for us to accept a grant to be able to bring on a particular number of police officers, and that this grant does not allow for us in no way, if we wanted to not only bring on officers, be able to bring in some civilian individuals or groups to be able to help from the other side of community engagement other than policing.
Council President to Council, that's correct. This grant is solely to bring on 30 new police officers.
Okay, and thank you for the answer. I just wanted to be clear so that way, so so that we're clear on what we're doing. And if there was some ability, somehow, some way that we can, sometimes these grants say, well, 60% has to be for this or 70% has to be for that. That this was not one of those type of grants that we do 90% on personnel as relates to police officers, and we can do 10% on social service or other ways of community engagement. But as you're telling me, that is not the case. And so, this body, we although we have been stellar, in my opinion, in providing community support from making our rec centers, wraparound centers for folks to go in and receive benefits from, or training the staff to be counselors, etc. I think that we have to we can't rest on our laurels. We have to continue to progress and move forward and continue to build on the work that we have already done, because as many of us know, that the issues don't stop. We bring on 15 counselors, we renovate 2 rec centers. Well, we can't stop there. We have to continue moving to effectively deal with and address these situations that we have. Mr. President, to the director, after we hire these 30 police officers, it is our intent to keep them on permanently, or is this for a specific period of time? Have we thought through that? Do we have the ability to keep these officers on, or can you clarify what our approach would be after these officers are brought on in terms of as it relates to the long term?
So, as you know, this funding for the 30 new police officers for a period of 3 years, and as Chief Williams stated, he would love to see 1,700 officers. So we bring these folks on. We plan to engage in discussion and looking at our budget and our manning so that we can not only keep these officers, but add to. So we do not anticipate that we will reduce forces at the end of this 3 years. We will look to grow our police department to bring. I agree with Chief Williams. I think 1,700 is a good number.
Thank you, Mr. President. And, I'll wrap up after this point. I understood the 3 years, but what I don't want to happen is that we bring these officers on for 3 years. We go out here, we make waves, and let's say we come out with some great results, and then after 3 years, then we're back here again, trying to figure out a way to help deal with these issues in our community, right? That we are again left holding the bag, so to speak, without any real plan or any real path to move forward to address these violent crimes that we have, because it's real. When myself and my colleagues sit around and talk about the issues that are plaguing our community, and when they think that when we say Mrs. Jones or Mrs. Johnson, that it's a game, it's not a game, it's real. That in a lot of these neighborhoods, it's the wild, wild west. We have a problem, a growing problem in these communities that we all together must work together to be able to grab a hold to. And if we don't, then we're going to continue to see the things happen that we see happening every single day. So again, Mr. Chairman, in closing, I'm in support of this grant here. But as we move forward, that this council takes a hard look of the funding levels that we have put forward as relates to the civilian side of community engagement and working with the police. As Chief Williams said, they're not trained to that level, or they don't have the manpower to be able to deal with the other side of policing, which we know that isn't the black and white car. That we look at our levels of funding and find ways to build upon those, and as our efforts as we try to aggressively affect the things that are affecting our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Anthony Brancatelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think most of my questions have been answered, and I think when I looked at the letter from the Department of Justice, it specified that we can hire 30 officers or use that money to rehire officers or use that money to retain officers. But it was answered that we are not doing the latter two, we're doing the first, which is to hire 30 new officers. And it also specifies that some officers can be redeployed. So I think we've gone over this at length, and my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Charles Slife.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And actually, thank you, Councilman Hairston. He answered one of my questions, which was about, really my question about, what happens when this funding source sunsets. I think Councilman Hairston also brought up an important point that for a lot of people, violent crime is pretty abstract. Can everyone hear me okay? I feel like I have the loudest register in the world behind me, air register. I'm not shy about this, but, for me, violent crime isn't abstract. I was robbed at gunpoint in 2015. It's an experience that I'd like to not go through again. And it's, an experience I probably didn't think that I'd go through in my life, but, here we are. And, I'm supportive of this legislation for a pretty important reason. I think it's important that we step back for a second and look at the bigger picture. Violent crime in Northeast Ohio, Greater Cleveland, isn't really that much different than the national average, but the city of Cleveland has an incredibly high violent crime rate. Why is that? My suspicion, my really strong belief is because we've seen this out-migration from the city of Cleveland. Our population has declined by about 500,000 people over the course of decades. And what we've left with, and I say this knowing that, and acknowledging that, crime in my part of town does not compare to crime in many other parts of the city. However, we're all in this together. And, people, when I talk to my residents, we're committed to Cleveland, we stayed. But it's frustrating over the course of one weekend in May to receive thousands of emails from people that don't live in Cleveland who, feel the need to comment on our public safety and, just quite defund your own police. But, it's don't write from Hudson and don't write from Edina. I won't name every community. It's just categorically frustrating. And what frustrates me about it is that this is a regional issue. The pulling of resources out of Cleveland, the disinvestment, the concentration of poverty, the underfunding of schools, all of these things are factors that lead to crime. We know it. And people are saying we should be funding, social programs. We should be doing those things, but we can't do that, at the jeopardy of the violent crime that not tackling the violent crime that already exists within our community. To me, much of the rhetoric that's out there right now seems to absolve people in our wider community outside of Cleveland for the role that we all play in this. And what I like about this is that by bringing in federal dollars, I'd love to find state dollars. This is a societal fix. This is a systemic fix. This is not a problem that Cleveland can tackle in and of itself and solely through its municipal budget. That's just moving pieces around the chessboard. We need new money. We need our neighbors to participate because we are all in this together, whether we're on one side of an imaginary line in the dirt or another. So to me, this is outside money, new money that allows us to tackle violent crime. And in turn, we should be advocating for new money as well to be funding, social workers, economic investment, all of the other things that lead to crime reduction over time that we're already doing as a council, often outside of our general fund through different grant sources, but we could certainly be doing more of. This is an important first step. I'm supportive of it, but there's so much more advocacy to do, as far as it goes to this general topic of crime in the city of Cleveland. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Jones, you have taken up your first time. Do you have a 30-second comment and specifically on ordinance number 67520?
No, Mr. Chairman, I just really appreciate the fact that I think my colleagues really hit it on the nail. And I'm really proud of all of them who had comments. And certainly I support this legislation, Mr. Chairman, 110%.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. If there are no further comments or questions, ordinance number 67520 stands approved. Ordinance number 69220, Councilmember Zoni Kelly by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Safety to enter into one or more contracts with Avail Forensics for the acquisition of software and license for the Pathfinder turnkey solutions for the Division of Police Department of Public Safety, and authorizing the director to enter into an agreement with the Federal Bureau of Investigation to reimburse the city for expenses related to the city's acquisition of the software and licenses. Director?
Thank you.
Please unmute yourself.
I'm here. I'm looking for the, in my binder, my apologies. What was the, it's gotten out of order. Okay.
Chief, you still with us?
Thank you. Thank you to council through the president. Ordinance 692-2020, if passed by council, will authorize the Director of Public Safety to enter into an agreement with the Veil Forensics for software license for the Pathfinder turnkey solution for the Division of Police, Department of Public Safety, to authorize an agreement with the Federal Bureau of Investigation for reimbursement by the FBI of expenses associated with the purchase of the software and licenses referenced above. This software is the same software currently used by the FBI as a forensic analytical tool to process digital evidence to help identify connections between cases. This software will provide the Cleveland Police Department with a significant forensic tool to process digital evidence to assist in homicide investigations. As part of the initiative to add resources to homicide investigations, the FBI is offering to reimburse the city for the cost of 5 licenses for a 3-year subscription. This is $150,000. At the end of the 3-year period, the city would have the option to continue the subscription at the city's expense or discontinue using the software. We have also submitted this request to ITS for review and approval of the purchase of the software and licenses. The $150,000 cost of the software and licenses will be funded by the police operating budget, Fund 01, Subfund 001, Department 6002, and requisition number 6002, RL 2020-075, which has been submitted through Advantage.
Director, what is the Pathfinder turnkey solution? Like, what is that?
It's an analytical tool for digital and computer equipment.
And it's something that we currently use?
We do. We do, and we use it to solve crimes that go to the felon.
Veil Forensics, I'm assuming this is a sole source issue.
Correct.
And they would continue to service, and then the licenses that we would and software would purchase would work with our existing turnkey solutions program?
Correct.
Thank you. This has been heard and recommended for passage by Committee on Safety. Councilman Chairman Matt Zone, do you have any further questions on 69220?
No, I don't, Mr. Chairman. We had a good conversation last Thursday and wholly support this legislation.
Thank you. Councilman Joe Jones, question specifically on ordinance number 692-2020.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, to the director, we currently have the program that we're working that the FBI is looking to pay for 5 additional licenses. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so we're currently right now working with the program. We have this particular program.
Yes.
I see. And so, hey, I have no unreadiness, Mr. Chairman. All the resources help.
Thank you. Further questions, comments on ordinance number 69220? Hearing none, ordinance number 69220 stands approved. Ordinance number 720. Council members Zone, Cali by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Safety to employ 1 or more professional consultants, computer software developers or vendors to acquire licenses for or to develop and implement 1 or more policy management systems and other related services for the various divisions of the Department of Public Safety for a period of 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew exercisable by the Director of Public Safety. Director?
Thank you, Council. The President, this is ordinance 700-2020. If passed by council, will authorize the Director of Public Safety to enter into 1 or more professional service contracts for consultants, computer software developers, or vendors to implement 1 or more policy management systems and other related professional services for the Department of Public Safety. This is for the Division of Animal Care and Control, Division of Emergency Medical Services, Division of Fire, Division of Police, and Office of Professional Standards. The contract award and amount would be set by the Board of Control. The Department of Public Safety wishes to issue requests for proposal soliciting proposals for these systems and services. The contract or contracts will be funded by the general fund operating budget for the various divisions within the Department of Public Safety and from any other funds approved by the Director of Finance for this purpose. The purpose of this legislation is to ensure the Department of Public Safety's policies reflect up-to-date industry and national standards, best practices, and are timely updated in response to new legislation and case law. Policy management aids in meeting training mandates with courses covering time-tested tactics and the latest hot topics.
Okay, so policy management systems, that's capitalized in the caption. Is that a specific product, like technology product that we currently use?
It's a technology product that would update our policies in real time. So
Okay.
that it is not something that we use across the board currently.
Okay, so the policy management systems that is currently in use, what did they do to our policies?
Chief Cavill?
To the council.
No, I can't hear you.
1 minute, please. The council chair, to the council. This software program will actually be a process where HR and law will actually review this, depending on who gets the contract, to make sure that our policies and procedures are best practices and standards throughout the nation. For example, our standing operating procedures as far as how to fight fire, or general orders, all that will be reviewed in a timely fashion to provide the best practices currently that they're using in the industrial standards of the fire division, EMS, and police.
Councilman Zone? Could you explain this?
As you can imagine, federal law, state law, a lot of policy, it happens almost in real time. This software is going to give public safety the ability for all the divisions of public safety to see what are the best practices out there, what are the current change in state code and federal code, and make sure that we're compliant and following in that direction. I'd ask my colleagues to support this piece of legislation.
So, Councilman, I wasn't fully tuned in when we were going over this one on Thursday, but you believe that this is an important policy, this is an important legislation that we authorize this procurement for the department?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Joe Jones.
Mr. Chairman, it's so broad, so it's like super broad. So let me just, if we can kind of like bring it in a little bit. What was I know that this is not the first of its type ordinance. Did we have an ordinance like this before, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Director?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question was, did we have another ordinance previously with the same language?
No. President to the council, this here is that we follow, and it's these policies and procedures are based off of national standards or case law. What the acquiring of this of a software that updates these policies is that once the case law changes, our policy would change automatically. Once policies on the national stage change, our policies and procedures which would change automatically. This is so that we can stay abreast with national standards and the law, and be apprised of when those changes occur.
Councilman?
Council chair, to the council, I'd also like to add to that.
Chief, I don't know if you've got two screens going, but there's a lot of feedback.
I apologize for that. So in regards to the Division of Fire, we have the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association standards, and they change every so often. And so this will keep us on track as far as the best industrial standards for the fire division, and that'll be the same for EMS and police as far as those standards. Commissioner Carlton, please.
Council President, to the councilman, the professional services will update the policies across, looking at city policies, state and other regulations that we are required to follow. And we'll make sure that within all of our policies, general orders, divisional notices, that anything that would change is reflected across all of the policies that we have in place. To assist the employees understanding all the rules, regulations that are in order, and that everything is kept up to date.
Councilman? Okay, thank you. Councilman Zone? Are you still?
Sorry,
Councilman
Mr. Chairman, somebody knocked at my door. I had to go to it went off screen for a minute. I apologize.
Okay, so I'm going to respect your recommendation and that of the committee. I would like more follow-up on this. I would like to get more information on this, but I'm going to take the recommendation of the safety committee and move forward. Are there further questions on ordinance number 720? Hearing on ordinance number 720 stands approved.
Thank you.
Okay, we're done with safety, mercifully. Moving to public utilities. Okay. Going to begin with ordinance number 51620. Council members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. Emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of labor and materials to paint poles and other street side elements for the Division of Cleveland Public Power, Department of Public Utilities for a period of 2 years.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. Just looking for the director. Cleveland Public Power is responsible for painting street light poles and other street side elements such as traffic signal poles, control cabinets, pedestrian signal poles, pole bases, and signposts. This ordinance will allow and authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more requirements contract for purchasing the labor and materials needed. The scope is materials and equipment to clean, prime, and finish coat metal and fiberglass poles at various sizes and styles. Current contract expires November 2020. Estimated amount is $150,000 for a 2-year contract.
Thank you. This ordinance has been heard and recommended for passage by the Committee on Utilities. Chairman Brian Casey. Chair still with us? Questions, comments on ordinance number 51620? Hearing on ordinance number 51620 stands approved. Ordinance number 53520, council members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. Emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more requirement contracts without competitive bidding with Crown Liebing Company for the purchase of proprietary parts and services to install, maintain, repair, and replace Gorman-Rupp pump equipment for the Division of Water Pollution Control, Department of Public Utilities for a period of 2 years.
Thank you, Chairman. Water Pollution Control requesting authority to authorize the purchase of proprietary parts and services as appropriate to maintain, install, repair, and replace on an as-needed basis the Gorman-Rupp pump equipment. There are 12 pump stations with water pollution control. The vast majority are Gorman-Rupp, and Crown Liebing Company is their preferred vendor in our area. Current contract expires October 2020. Anticipated cost of $120,000 for 2 years.
Great. And this has been heard and recommended for passage by the Committee on Public Utilities. Is the chairman with us? Further, Councilman Joe Jones on ordinance number 53520.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman, I'm afraid we can't hear you. I'm afraid we're having technical.
Previous one, I got disconnected. We get that at the end of this miscellaneous.
I'm sorry, Councilman.
You
Really,
can't hear me right now.
I'm sorry, Councilman. We just can't hear.
What are you saying?
Are there further questions on 53520? Hearing none, ordinance number 53520 stands approved. Ordinance number 56120, council members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more contracts without competitive bidding with Business Inc. the Northeast Ohio Regional Representative for the various proprietary equipment and services in order to maintain and replace existing components of various chemical feed and related systems for the Division of Water Department of Public Utilities for a term of 2 years.
Thank you, Chairman. Division of Water has 4 drinking water plants and several water distribution facilities. Operation and integrity of these systems is critical to the production and supply of potable water to Cleveland and neighboring communities. Normal operation subjects equipment to mechanical, electrical, and chemical degradation. Maintenance and refurbishment are not performed, the capacities of the water system become reduced. This direct requirement contract will be used to maintain and replace components, including but not limited to valve parts, process scale parts, sensors, pump parts, chemical feed equipment parts, proprietary computerized hardware training, and computer firmware updates. Several of the manufacturers of these proprietary parts have authorized BizNus to be their sole representative and supplier of the equipment in Northeast Ohio. And Cleveland Water is requesting authority to purchase proprietary equipment manufactured by and related services provided by those manufacturers. Anticipated cost is $1.2 million in a 2-year term. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. In ordinance number 65120 was also heard and recommended for passage by the Committee on Utilities. Chairman Brian Casey.
Mr. Chairman, this has been fully vetted and recommended for passage out of utilities.
Thank you. Further questions, comments on ordinance number 65120? Hearing on ordinance number 65120 stands approved. Ordinance number 65720, council members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more contracts with OPEX Corporation for professional services necessary to provide hardware and software support and maintenance, including on-call maintenance for mail extractors, scanners, and ID assist towers, and to pay additional license fees on covered equipment for the Division of Fiscal Control, Department of Public Utilities for a period of 2 years.
Thank you, Chairman. DPU Fiscal Control is requesting legislation to authorize the purchase of a renewal of on-call maintenance service agreement for proprietary equipment. We currently utilize 6 of these OPEX mail opening, extracting machines, and scanners to open and image all water, water pollution control, sewer, and CPP payments. All of them were purchased from OPEX and installed by OPEX. Current agreement expires at the end of the year. We are requesting authority for 2 years, January 1, 21 through December 31, 22, through OPEX Corporation. Obviously, the reliability of these machines is paramount to our operation. It's a 2-year anticipated contract with an anticipated cost of $129,350.
Thank you. And again, ordinance 65720 has had a hearing and was recommended for passage by the Committee on Public Utilities. Chairman Brian Casey.
Again, Mr. President, fully vetted in utilities and recommended for passage.
Thank you. Further questions, comments on ordinance 65720? Hearing none, ordinance number 65720 stands approved. Ordinance number 66020, council members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of labor materials necessary to maintain control systems of the SCADA and PCCS systems for the various divisions of the Department of Public Utilities, and authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more requirement contracts without competitive bidding with various companies to provide critical proprietary components for the SCADA and PCCS equipment for the divisions of Water and Cleveland Public Power, Department of Public Utilities for a period of up to 2 years. Director?
Thank you, Chairman. Public Utilities requesting legislation to authorize the purchase of specialized equipment, supplies, tools, software, computer equipment, training, and labor to maintain and replace components of the electrical power distribution control system, water distribution control system, water plant control system, and sewer pump station control system. We use the various contracts on an as-needed basis. They'll be employed to maintain and replace components of the control and data acquisition system for electrical distribution and potable water distribution, fire detection systems, water plant process systems, including but not limited to sensors, uninterruptible power supplies, batteries, specialized software, specialized computer hardware training, and computer software integration. Contracts estimated to cost $1.4 million for the duration of the contract, which we are anticipating to be 2 years. We're requesting to be 2 years, Chairman.
Thank you. Ordinance number 660 has been recommended for approval. Chairman Brian Casey.
Fully vetted through utilities, Mr. President, and recommended for passage.
Thank you. Further questions on 66020? Hearing none, ordinance number 66020 stands approved. Ordinance number 66020, council members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of underwater diving, inspection, cleaning, debris removal, and occasional minor repair for the Division of Water, Department of Public Utilities for a period of up to 2 years. Director?
Thank you, Chairman. As mentioned, Cleveland Water has 4 water treatment plants, each of which has a raw water intake system in Lake Erie, a shore shaft, raw water suction wells, settling basins, finished water storage basins, and other submerged facilities. We also have large transmission mains that in some cases are located in challenging locations, such as under rivers, which can only be repaired from the inside. The operation and integrity of these facilities is critical for the production of and supply of potable water. We're requesting legislation to authorize the purchase of services, labor, and materials to provide underwater diving, inspection, cleaning, debris removal, and occasional minor repair of submerged and water-filled facilities. On an as-needed basis, estimated cost $1 million for, again, a requested 2 years. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Chairman Casey?
We fully vetted this in Utilities Committee and we recommend for passage. This is also known as the Assistant Director Kane Speedo legislation.
I'm voting against this one then.
I am.
Questions, comments on 66220? Hearing none, 66220 stands approved. Ordinance number 66420, Councilmembers Casey and Kelly by department request an emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of water mains, fire hydrants, service connections, valves, and appurtenances for the Division of Water, concrete repair, tree or lawn restoration, pavement restoration, including but not limited to materials, labor, and installation necessary for the Division of Water, Water Pollution Control, and Cleveland Public Power, Department of Public Utilities for a period of 2 years. Director?
Thank you, Chairman. There are over 50,000 valves, 70,000 hydrants, and 5,300 miles of water mains in the water system. This contract is typically used during peak times, such as during cold winter snaps when break rates and freezing connections increase dramatically. Would allow for repair and replace water mains, fire hydrants, service connections, valves, and appurtenances of the city's water distribution system. And also for restoration services, edge sealing after pavement cuts are made for utility installations. Anticipated cost is approximately $25 million, $11,134,977 per year. And it is also anticipated or requested for 2 years. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Director. Councilman Casey, 66420.
We fully vetted this in Utilities and we recommended it for passage.
Thank you. Questions, comments on ordinance number 66420? Hearing none, ordinance number 66420 stands approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes public utilities by my count. At this point, we have some council resolutions left. We have resolution 71520, Councilmembers Griffin and McCormick. This is in front of us to consider for adoption. Emergency resolution supporting displaced service employees, International Union, Local 1, janitors who have cleaned buildings in downtown Cleveland for decades, and urging that the displaced janitors are reinstated and that any cleaning contractor hired adheres to the standards established by the terms and conditions of the collective bargaining agreement, which janitors have worked diligently to establish. I'll go to the sponsors first. Councilman Blaine Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is something that I'm asking everybody to support. A lot of people don't know this, but SEIU, the janitors, are a Local 1. These are people that often have, they clean the buildings, and anybody that will tell you that cleaning the building is probably one of the most important things that we can actually do. And I just want to tell you that Local 1 janitors have been our friends. Right now, they're in a contract dispute because there's a new company that is called the Alto Partners. I wanted to make sure I had it done. The Alto Partners that has taken over cleaning one of our buildings, and they clean the health department buildings. And quite frankly, once they got the contract and the lease for the building and to clean that building, they immediately displaced at least 4 workers that are janitors with Local 1. This resolution is to support people who, don't get high wages and just want fair wages. And this council in the past has supported unions through Plain Dealer. When the Plain Dealer actually had employees that they've laid off, this council has supported other unions in the past whenever they've made a stand. So I'm asking our colleagues to support Local 1 SEIU, because not only is this building where the Alto partners a problem, but we also need to advocate for them with all downtown buildings and all working people. As we come off of Labor Day and support the labor of so many people that made our society great, let's not forget the folks like SEIU, who are giants in membership, but are also one of the people that get the lowest wages. So I'm asking everybody to support this. Once again, this is Local 1, this is SEIU, and I'm asking that we can support this. And once again, Alto Partners is the property owner, so it's not listed in the resolution, but I do want to make it clear that we need to send a signal to Alto Partners and everybody else regarding how they treat our workers in the city of Cleveland. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Kerry McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I join my colleague, Councilman Griffin, in fully supporting this resolution. Ask that my colleagues do the same. This is a building that the city of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County are the primary lessees of. We lease this building, taxpayer dollars lease this building. And right after we re-signed our lease, the ownership group of this building stripped away the labor protections that the janitors in this building enjoyed. And by the way, enjoyed meaning basic fair wages and protection. So this was intentional. This was coordinated to ensure that taxpayer dollars were secured to rent this building. And then, that these folks, their guarantee of a living wage and protection was then stripped from them. So this is not only about this building, but this is about, as Councilman Griffin said, sending a message across the city of Cleveland that, especially when there are taxpayer dollars paying the rent, that you can't strip the employees, the hardworking janitors and unions, of their basic protections of fair wages, healthcare, and other protections. So not only, do I support this resolution, Mr. Chairman, but I think we need to look at, I don't know if there's something we can look at with our lease with them, whether the law department can look at that from a basic protection of wages and protections of the employees. But this is ridiculous. It's shameful. And it's not the way to treat hardworking men and women in the city of Cleveland by stripping this from them after they secured a lease from public entities. So, Mr. Chairman, fully support this and ask that our colleagues do the same.
Thank you, Councilman Joe Jones.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that I could better articulate the issue as Blaine Griffin has articulated and Kerry McCormick, and I sign on 110% agreement with that.
Thank you, Councilman. If there are no further questions, Resolution 71520 will be considered by the full council later this afternoon. Lastly, we have 609-2020, Councilmember Bishop, an emergency ordinance designating East 139th Street between Lambert and Union Avenues as secondary and honorary designation of Tyrone Baldwin Way. Councilman Kevin Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm asking my colleagues to support this piece of legislation. Mr. Bowden was a Titan in the Mount Pleasant community. He served on this body for several terms, but it was his work after he had left the council that where he really made his mark. Through his ministries, he fed many of people in the Mount Pleasant community. He ministered to troubled youth. His coaching, he coached basketball and football. So he touched a lot of lives. I've canvassed his street personally, and everybody was in fully support of renaming this street after Mr. Tyrone Bowden. And I ask my colleagues to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Councilman Joe Jones.
Mr. Chairman, I just, support my colleague as it relates to the street renaming. I agree with him. Tyrone Bowden, I knew Mr. Bowden, and I can remember being a younger person sitting in and watching the meetings. He had a major impact on the southeast side of the city of Cleveland, and his passing certainly has left a void in our city, and I support my colleague 110%. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Kerry McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was reviewed by myself and Clerk Britt and recommended for approval.
Thank you. Further questions, comments on ordinance number 60920? Seeing none, ordinance number 60920 stands approved. That is the completion of our agenda. I would ask everybody to stay signed on to to what you're signed on to. We'll begin the council meeting at 10 minutes after 1.
Mr. Chairman, question for you.
Yes, please.
Did the Cleveland Clinic pieces getting introduced today?
I would defer that to the clerk. I believe so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's do 1:15, but if everybody could be back at 1:15, that'd be helpful.
Mr. President.
39 we'll reassemble at 1:15. Councilman Jones?
Yeah, I just had a question as well. I know that there's the legislation around the downtown district. Is that being introduced today as well?
The list of what was introduced should have gone around, but I would push that back to the clerk for the introduction.
Councilman McCormick, you said yes, yes?
It's on the calendar. I saw it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You.
Yes. Yes.
Nothing else for the good of the order. We are adjourned. I will see everybody at 1:15. Okay, 1:15 on my clock. What's our count, Madam Clerk? All right. Okay. Pat, you ready?
Hi, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Okay. Kelly,
Here.
Bishop, Brancatelli, Cleveland,
Here.
Conwell, Griffin,
Here.
Hairston, Johnson,
Here.
Here.
Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Case,
Here.
Present.
Cormac,
Present.
Mooney, Valencic, Santana, Slight,
Present.
Zone.
Present.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'd like everyone to pause for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would specifically ask people to keep in mind the two officers lost their lives. So I'd like to pause for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty.
Liberty and justice for all.
This council meeting is being held during the COVID-19 emergency declaration and is being conducted as a virtual meeting in accordance with Ohio's open meeting laws as amended by Sub-House Bill 197. Council 49 requiring attendance of the mayor and director.
Mr. President, we can't hear you.
For this and any other virtual council meetings held under amended Sub-House Bill 197. In compliance with charter and rules of council, a copy of all legislation to be heard during this council meeting was furnished previous to the meeting to every council member through their council email. It is hereby acknowledged without objection that all members of council have received this legislation. Further, council members must be visibly present for all votes. If you are not present, your vote will not be counted. Madam Clerk, please dispense with the journal. I can't hear you. Okay, Madam Clerk, can you hear me?
It's a little difficult.
Okay, I've got my microphone on all the way.
Okay.
I will go to my headphones or something. If we could please dispense with the journal.
Yes. By Councilmember Cleveland, that the reading of the minutes of the last meeting be dispensed with the journal approved. Seconded by Councilmember Hairston.
Communications.
File number 708-2020 from Director Michael Cox, Department of Public Works. Notification of gift acceptance of touchless hand washing stations from Moen Incorporated, valued at $28,000. File number 739-2020 from Cuyahoga County Board of Elections, municipal and school issues on November 2020 ballot in City of Cleveland. File number 711-2020, dedication plat for Monroe Place subdivision, Monroe Avenue between West 26th and West 28th Street, Ward 3. File number 712-2020, dedication plat for Trailside subdivision, East 71st Street and Jerome Court, Ward 12. From the Ohio Division of Liquor Control, file number 709-2020, regarding an economic development application D1, D2, D6, Eric Island Coffee, 2057 East 4th Street, Ward 3. File number 710-2020, a new license application for 6506 Fleet Avenue, Ward 12. File number 740, 2020, economic development transfer application at 11620 Clifton Boulevard, Ward 15. File number 742, 2020, transfer of ownership application at 3742 Fulton Avenue, Ward 14. File number 743, 2020, regarding a new license application at 2181 Ambleside Drive, Ward 6.
I'm sorry for my technical difficulties. Madam Clerk, if we are ready for first reading, emergency ordinances referred for administrative and committee review.
Ordinance 714, 2020 by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance to enter into.
Madam Clerk?
Yes,
Madam Clerk?
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
One second. Madam Clerk, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
First reading emergency ordinances to be referred for administrative and committee review.
Ordinance 714, 2020 by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Finance to enter into an amendment to lease agreement with Mid-City Limited, authorized by Ordinance 1070-17 for the lease of office space for Cleveland Police Commission located at 3631 Perkins Avenue for an additional 2 years with one option to renew for an additional year, exercisable by the Director of Finance. Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Ordinance 730, 2020 by Council Members Griffin and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Health to enter into one or more contracts without competitive bidding with the Center for Disease Detection for the purchase of lab services for reproductive health clinics that are needed under the Title 10 grant for the Division of Health, Department of Public Health. Ordinance 731, 2020 by Council Members Zone, Johnson, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Capital Projects or City Planning to enter into one or more contracts with Stephen Gutierrez for professional services necessary for the design, production, and installation of a yet-to-be-designed public artwork associated with and installed at the New Cleveland Kennel. Ordinance 732, 2020 by Council Members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance determining the method of making the public improvement of rehabilitation of the Kirtland Crib and authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more public improvement contracts for the making of the improvement. Ordinance 733, 2020 by Council Members Johnson and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Works to employ one or more professional consultants to assess and make recommendations to improve the West Side Market operations. Ordinance 734, 2020 by Council Members Kelly and McCormack. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Works to enter into a second amendment to the June 30th, 2016 Property Operations and Programming Agreement with the Group Plan Commission for Public Square to provide a restricted contribution to the support of the Commission's maintenance obligations on Public Square. Ordinance 737, 2020 by Council Members McCormack, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into tax increment financing agreement with 75 Public Square or its designee to support debt service related to the project and assist with the development of new market rate apartments, a restaurant and retail space, to provide for payments to Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and to declare certain improvements to real property to be a public purpose. Ordinance 738, 2020 by Council Members McCormack, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into a tax increment financing agreement with Stonelay Companies or its designee to support debt service related to the project and assist with the development of housing apartment units, to provide for payments to Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and to declare certain improvements to real property to be of public purpose. Ordinance 741-2020 by Councilmember Griffin, an emergency ordinance to add the name Cleveland Clinic Way as a secondary and honorary name to East 93rd Street between Chester Avenue and Euclid Avenue.
First reading ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 722-2020 by Councilmembers Griffin, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance to amend Section 4 of Ordinance 597-2020 relating to a contract with CHN Housing Capital to provide grants and loans to property owners to make their residences lead safe. Ordinance 723-2020 by Councilmember Hairston, an emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement with the Graffiti Heart Corporation for the Euclid Green Mural Project through the use of Ward 10 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 724-2020 by Councilmember McCormack, an emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Department of Public Works to enter into agreement with Organize Ohio for the historical Heisman Marker Project through the use of Ward 3 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 725-2020 by Councilmember McCormack, an emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement with Ohio City Incorporated for the Market Square Park Project through the use of Ward 3 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 726-2020 by Councilmember Santana, an emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement with Metro West Community Development Corporation for the Painting a Better Picture project through the use of Ward 14 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 727-2020 by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request, an emergency ordinance approving the collective bargaining agreement with the Municipal Foreman and Laborers Union, formerly Local 1099, and to amend sections 26 and 27 of Ordinance 323-15 as amended relating to compensation for various classifications. Ordinance 728-2020 by Councilmember McCormack, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Department of Public Works to enter into agreement with the Tremont West Development Corporation for the Arts in August Expo through the use of Ward 3 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 729-2020 by Councilmember Brancatelli, an emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement with Slavic Village Development for the Slavic Village Beautification Program through the use of Ward 12 casino revenue funds.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Cleveland, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage. Seconded by Councilmember Hairston.
Please call the roll.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Cleveland, Conwell, Griffin, Hairston, Johnson, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slight, Zone. 16 yeas.
Please call the roll on passage.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Cleveland, Conwell, Griffin, Hairston, Johnson, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slight, Zone. 15 yeas.
First reading resolution referred for administrative and committee review.
Resolution 713-2020 by Council Members McCormack, Cleveland, Bashir Jones, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency resolution approving the expansion of the downtown Cleveland Improvement District, accepting the petitions from owners of property in the proposed district as expanded, approving the amended articles of incorporation of the Downtown Cleveland Improvement Corporation, approving the comprehensive services plan for the continued operations of the district, declaring it necessary to provide for additional security, cleaning, maintenance, and economic development and marketing of the district, and providing for the assessment of the cost and expense of such work upon benefited property in the district and declaring an emergency. Resolution 735, 2020 by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request. An emergency resolution requesting the county fiscal officer to make advances during the year 2021 pursuant to section 321.34 of the Ohio Revised Code. Resolution 736, 2020 by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request. An emergency resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Cuyahoga County Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer.
First reading emergency resolutions to be adopted.
Resolution 715, 2020 by Council Members Griffin and McCormack, an emergency resolution supporting Displaced Service Employees International Union, Local 1 janitors who have cleaned buildings in downtown Cleveland for decades and urging the displaced janitors are reinstated and that any cleaning contractor hired adheres to standards established by the terms and conditions of the existing collective bargaining agreement, which janitors have worked diligently to establish. Resolution 716, 2020 by Councilmember Brancatelli, an emergency resolution objecting to the renewal of a C1C2 liquor permit at 1303 Clark Avenue. Resolution 717, 2020 by Councilmember Joe Jones, an emergency resolution objecting to the renewal of the D1, D2, D3, D3A liquor permit at 4209 East 131st Street, first floor and basement. Resolution 718, 2020 by Councilmember Kelly, an emergency resolution fixing the date of the next regular meeting of council. Resolution 719, 2020 by Councilmember Brancatelli, an emergency resolution withdrawing objection to the renewal of a C1C2 liquor permit at 1303 Clark Avenue and repealing Resolution 564, 2020, objecting to said renewal. Resolution 720, 2020 by Councilmember Joe Jones, an emergency resolution withdrawing objection to the renewal of a D1, D2, D3, D3A liquor permit at 4209 East 131st Street and repealing Resolution 566, 2020, objecting to said renewal. Resolution 721, 2020 by Councilmember Hairston, an emergency resolution withdrawing objection to the renewal of a D1, D2 liquor permit at 12307 St. Clair Avenue and repealing Resolution 622, 2020, objecting to said renewal.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Cleveland, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Hairston.
Please call the roll.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Cleveland, Conwell, Griffin, Hairston, Johnson, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slight Zone. 14 yeas.
Please call the roll on adoption.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Cleveland, Conwell, Griffin, Hairston, Johnson, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slight Zone. 14 yeas.
Second reading emergency ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 506, 2020 by Council Members Brancatelli and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of City Planning to enter into an amendment to a contract with Code Studio, Inc. to extend the term of the contract up to 1 year and to add additional services for form-based zoning pilot initiative. Ordinance 515, 2020 by Council Members Zone and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Safety to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the United States Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives and the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office to collaborate on the collection, management, and analysis of crime gun data, and to authorize the acceptance of asset forfeiture proceeds and other funds for the reimbursement of Cleveland police officer salaries and/or overtime. Ordinance 516, 2020 by Council Members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. an emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of labor and materials to paint poles and other street side elements for the Division of Cleveland Public Power, Department of Public Utilities for a period of 2 years. Ordinance 535, 2020 by council members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more requirement contracts without competitive bidding with Prawn Bleedling Company for the purchase of proprietary parts and services to install, maintain, repair, and replace Warman-Rupp pump equipment for the Division of Water Pollution Control, Department of Public Utilities. Ordinance 555, 2020 by council members Zone and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance to amend section 2 of ordinance 1388, 2019 relating to the directors of public safety and law, accepting grants from the County Public Safety and Justice Services for fiscal year 2019 Violence Against Women Act for sexual assault advocate and for the law enforcement and prosecution components of the Cleveland Domestic Violence Program. Ordinance 599, 2020 by council members McCormack, Casey, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to sell city-owned property no longer needed for public use located near the northwest corner of Walworth Avenue and West 44th Street to Community Rebuilders LLC for the purpose of future redevelopment. Ordinance 609, 2020 by council member Bishop. An emergency ordinance designating East 139th Street between Lambert and Union Avenues with a secondary and honorary designation of Tyrone Bolden Way. Ordinance 651, 2020 by council members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more requirement contracts without competitive bidding with Business Inc., the Northeast Ohio Regional Representative of various proprietary equipment and services in order to maintain and replace existing components of various chemical feed and related systems for the Division of Water, Department of Public Utilities. Ordinance 652, 2020 by council members McCormack, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the mayor and the Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to acquire and reconvey properties presently owned by 75 Public Square or its designee located at 75 Public Square for the purpose of entering into the chain of title prior to the adoption of tax increment financing legislation authorized under section 5709.41 of the revised code. Ordinance 653, 2020 by council members McCormack, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the mayor and the Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to acquire and reconvey properties presently owned by Stone Lake Companies or its designee located at 2020 Lorraine Avenue for the purpose of entering into the chain of title prior to the adoption of tax increment financing legislation authorized under section 5709.41 of the revised code. Ordinance 657, 2020 by council members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more contracts with OPEX Corporation for professional services necessary to provide hardware and software support and maintenance, including on-call maintenance for mail extractors, scanners, and ID assist towers, and to pay annual license fees on covered equipment for the Division of Fiscal Control, Department of Public Utilities. Ordinance 660, 2020 by council members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of labor and materials necessary to maintain control systems of the SCADA and PCCS systems for the various divisions of the Department of Public Utilities, and authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more requirement contracts without competitive bidding with various companies to provide critical components for the SCADA and PCCS equipment for the divisions of Water and Cleveland Public Power Department of Public Utilities. Ordinance 662, 2020 by Council Members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of underwater diving, inspection, cleaning, debris removal, and occasional minor repair for the Division of Water, Department of Public Utilities. Ordinance 664, 2020 by Council Members Casey and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of water mains, fire hydrants, service connections, valves, and appurtenances for the Division of Water and concrete repair, tree lawn restoration, pavement restoration, including but not limited to materials and labor and installation if necessary for the divisions of Water, Water Pollution Control, and Cleveland Public Power Department of Public Utilities. Ordinance 667, 2020 by Council Members Zone and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of various medical supplies, medical equipment, and pharmaceuticals for the Division of Emergency Medical Service, Department of Public Safety. Ordinance 674, 2020 by Council Members Zone and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept a grant from U.S. Department of Homeland Security for fiscal year 18 Port Security Grant Program, authorizing the acquisition of licenses and authorizing the purchase and installation of a maritime radar security system, including associated equipment and maintenance. Ordinance 675, 2020 by Council Members Zone and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept a grant from United States Department of Justice COPS Office under the 2020 COPS Hiring Program for the Operation Relentless Pursuit Program. Ordinance 692, 2020 by Council Members Zone and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Safety to enter into one or more contracts with Avail Forensics for the acquisition of software and licenses for the Pathfinder Turnkey Solution for Division of Police, Department of Public Safety, and authorizing Director to enter into an agreement with the Federal Bureau of Investigation to reimburse the city for expenses related to the city's acquisition of software and licenses. Ordinance 693, 2020 by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Finance to enter into an agreement with Cleveland Foundation to establish, manage, and implement the Greater Cleveland COVID-19 Rapid Response Fund Program by providing grants to local nonprofits to assist them with COVID-19 related issues. Ordinance 699, 2020 by Council Members Cleveland, Johnson, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance to vacate a portion of Butner Court. Ordinance 700, 2020 by Council Members Zone and Kelly by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Public Safety to apply one or more professional consultants, computer software developers, or vendors to acquire licenses for or to develop and implement one or more policy management systems and other related services for the division of the Department of Public Safety.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Cleveland, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage. Seconded by Councilmember Hairston.
Please call the roll.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Cleveland, Conwell, Griffin, Hairston, Johnson, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slight, Zone. 15 yeas.
Please call the roll on passage.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Cleveland, Conwell, Griffin, Hairston, Johnson, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slight, Zone. 15 yeas, Mr. President.
Put a note for me, Mr. President, please.
Yes, there's a public safety piece that Councilman Jones would like to vote no on.
On all the public safety pieces.
All public safety pieces, yes.
So noted.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, will you please excuse the absences?
By Councilmember Cleveland. Right, by Councilmember Cleveland, that the absence of Councilmember Mooney is hereby excused, seconded by Councilmember Hairston.
Thank you. This council is adjourned to the call of the chair. The next regular meeting of council is scheduled for Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020, beginning at 10 a.m. with committee of the whole, followed by the council meeting. Thank you all very much.